Good evening. I'm going to call the meeting to order for October 15th for the Oxnard City Council. Madam Clerk, roll call and posting of the agenda.
Councilmember Basua.
Here.
Councilmember Madrigal.
Here.
Councilmember Perillo.
Here.
Councilmember Tehran.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem McDonald.
Here.
Mayor Zaragoza.
Here.
We have a quorum. Posting of the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted in the City Hall Bulletin Board on October 3rd, 2024. Announcement. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54952.3, each member of the Housing Board of Commissioners present will receive $50 pay for convening this meeting.
Thank you. Next item is public comments, and Madam Clerk, I have one speaker, Henry Sapien. Is he available?
Mayor Zaragoza, Mr. Harry Sapien has not dialed in, and we do not have any speakers at this time for closed session items in person or virtually. Thank you.
Thank you. So our next item then is item C, is closed session items, and we'll turn it over to our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council will recess to a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, Subdivision D1, to confer with its attorneys. The four litigation matters being discussed are Moving Oxnard Forward versus Jim Troop et al., John Mora versus City of Oxnard, and Blair Martin versus City of Oxnard. The item C2 is being pulled from the closed session agenda. So those are the three items that we will be bringing to you in closed session.
Okay, well, thank you. Then we're going to the closed session. We'll be back for the appointment items at 5 p.m. Closed session. Thank you. Okay, good evening. We're back from closed session. Mr. City Attorney, any reportable items out of closed session?
So the city council met in closed session on items C1, 3, and 4. Item C2 was pulled, and there are no reports of actions out of closed session.
Thank you, sir. Our next item is item D, appointment items. This is D1, is City Manager Department, subject Halaco Engineering Company. Recommendation, the City Council receive and file an update from the Environmental Protection Agency on the Halaco Engineering Company Superfund site. And Mr. Alex Nguyen, are you going to introduce our
Yes,
guest?
we have our representative from the US EPA. Can you
Welcome.
introduce yourself?
Good evening. My name is Holly Aragoni. I am the Remedial Project Manager for the Halaco Superfund site. And I'm here to provide you guys with an update, and I really hope that you like what I have to talk about. One thing I did not do is find my laser pointer. All right. I really like using this photo. Oh, thank you. This photo as my starting slide. This was provided by the Oxnard PD from November of last year, and it just really gives a great overview of what we're working with here at Halaco. You'll note the red arrow pointing north. I do use this on future slides to help orient you. But we have the old smelter parcel. This is where the buildings were. We have the waste management area. There's the big pile that everyone can see from a distance. And then we have the wetland area that is owned by the Nature Conservancy and the City of Oxnard, Ormond Lagoon, and of course the Pacific Ocean, which is going to figure prominently in what we're looking at for our final cleanup recommendations. So just a brief overview of what I'm planning to go through, some introductions, talk very briefly about the Superfund process. Bear with me. I'm not sure how much of this you all have heard. I'm going to try and keep it fairly high level. I'm going to talk about the site overview and what things we have looked at and what things we are continuing to move forward and need to look a little bit further into. Impacts to human health and the environment, climate vulnerability, again, Pacific Ocean right there on our doorstep. Some similar sites that we looked at and how that's weighing in on what we're looking at for a proposal. A little bit on community involvement, what you can expect to hear going forward, and then I'll open it up for a quick Q&A, and if folks have, if there's more questions than we have time for, I can stay around, and I'm happy to answer any additional questions. Again, my name is Holly Aragoni. I am the Remedial Project Manager. That means I oversee everything that happens with this site. I make all of the decisions. I hire contractors to help with all of the technical components. I work with a woman named Melissa Lasanta Edwards, who could not be here today. She is a community involvement coordinator, and she helps make sure that we are fully and actively engaging the community. Both of us are relatively new on this site, which is why there was nothing, and all of a sudden here we are. We keep popping up, and I really do hope that you like what I have to offer today. High-level Superfund process. So back in 1980, Congress created the Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation and Liability Act, also known as CERCLA. That gave me the authority to come in to these sites around the country and try to clean them up. Our goals: clean up the most hazardous sites in the country, protect human health and the environment, reduce risks in a cost-effective way, make those responsible pay when we can, involve the communities in the process, that's part of why I'm here, and return land to beneficial use. No surprise, the Superfund process, because like all things government, it takes a very, very, very long time. There's a lot of analysis that we have to go through, a lot of documentation, a lot of studies. Right now, we are at step 3 of this chart, looking at basically we're finalizing our evaluation of the site. Now, I will talk here shortly about how the site has been divided. I have one part of the site, we call that Operable Unit 1, where all the primary contamination was. I need to spend some more time with that site, so I'm going to talk a little bit less about that one. But the other site, Operable Unit 2, the wetland area, we are going to be moving forward with recommendations coming this fall. Starting in November, you should start seeing some of that documentation. So while it does take a very, very long time, and I am very cognizant of how frustrating that can be. We are really trying to keep this moving. A little bit of site overview. You all know this much better than I do, but as promised, here is the red arrow. This is the Ormond Lagoon waterway. It's the waterway that bisects the smelter parcel from the waste management unit, and it gives a slightly better perspective of the wetland area that runs adjacent to the waste management area. Again, our operable units. Operable unit 1 is in yellow. It's almost 40 acres of land, ranges anywhere from 10 feet below sea level to 40 feet above mean sea level, which does mean that we have some waste in the yellow area that is in the perched aquifer. It has not reached the drinking water table. It is not projected to ever reach the drinking water table, but there is some waste in the perched aquifer. Operable Unit 2 is the blue area, and that really just has waste from wind and water erosion, largely from the waste management unit. We have more than 6 threatened or endangered species, state and federally listed, and as you all know, it's part of one of the largest coastal wetlands in Southern California. Has the potential to be a really special area, and we want to do what we can to help bring that cohesive to what other things that are going on in the area. Halaco, secondary smelter, basically metals recycling. And when you recycle, as you can see in this photo here, this is their waste pile. It's a very, very messy process. We have more than 850,000 cubic yards of waste that we need to manage. To put that in perspective, that's almost 40 football fields filled 10 feet deep. It's a tremendous amount of material. And so when we start thinking about what are we going to do with it, we really have to think about that. I was talking with a site manager up in San Francisco who had a site with between 2 and 3 million cubic yards of material. And they ended up having to leave it in place because there was just nowhere that could take it. So I need to set expectations that we are trying, but so we may be hamstrung. So bear with me. But as far as what we've looked at, so for operable unit 1, again, the yellow area, when I was handed the site last year, the proposed remedy was to install an engineered cap and leave the material in place. So that's what this graphic is here. Basically, just leave it as exactly it is, put what amounts to a thick garbage bag over the top, and then put soil and vegetation over it. And I'm a former wetlands enforcement officer. I look at the Pacific Ocean, where it's located, and that just doesn't seem right to me. I can't say that at the end of the day, my management won't come back and say, this is what we need to do, but I am going to fight to do what is right for the site, because that, to me, is not the right answer for the site. Other options that we've looked at have included grade the material across the entire operable unit, so it's almost more of a plateau. We would still then have to do some level of cap and then revegetation. We've looked at reuse of the material. For those of you who may remember my predecessor, Wayne Praskins, he spent many, many years studying, can we use it in concrete? Unfortunately, that has been determined to be non-viable. We've looked at alternative daily cover at landfills. Unfortunately, that was determined to be non-viable. Solidification and stabilization, basically to make it so the material can't go anywhere. We're still investigating that. And then one that has not been sufficiently looked at, because this is a site that the federal government is paying for the cleanup of. When we look at option 1, this first one, the guesstimates were about $20 million. Full removal is around $200 million. I have to have more data to demonstrate to my management and EPA headquarters why that's the right answer. And so I am asking for more patience, which I'm guessing there's not a whole lot of, but we are trying, and I think we have a plan for how we can get to do something more. I can't promise it will be full removal. I don't know what it will look like, but I am working with my immediate management and senior management to try to figure out what can we do that will be something more. Operable Unit 2, however, we have a plan, and it's pretty exciting. And this, I was just talking with Adam. We are looking at releasing this hopefully in November. Our options include removing hazardous soil and sediments based on protection of the wildlife viewer, as well as the animals that we know that live there, particularly the piping plover and the other species that I'm blanking with on the moment. But there's several threatened and endangered species that we want to protect, and most of the contamination that is in this area is really of a greater threat to them. So what you will see is in our proposed plan, 3 different levels of excavation. The yellow being the smallest level of excavation, then blue, and then red being the greatest amount of excavation. We are looking to try to balance removing enough material that it makes sense, and we're really being protective of both human health as well as the environment, but we're also not taking out so much that we can't really restore, that we're ultimately doing more damage than good. And so you will see that when we release our proposed plan and proposed remedy, like I said, next month. Impacts to human health and the environment. So these are really more just things that we have to think about, that I have to think about when I'm proposing a remedy. So how is the land going to be used in the future? Who's going to be in contact with it, and how are they going to be in contact with it? Are they touching it? Are they accidentally eating it or breathing it? Do we have people that are currently at risk right now? How? And how can we reduce that in the near term and long term? You're all aware that there's an unhoused population that continues to use the Halaco site, and I've been working with the landowner to try to minimize that, but there's only so much we can do. Fences are cut and what have you, but we're very much aware of that and trying very hard to try and make it so that those people are not being exposed. A few assumptions that we have. This is sort of for the overarching site, but I'm really honing in more on Operable Unit 2 at this point, so the wetlands area. We're assuming that the land is not going to be used for homes. Multiple reasons. The first and foremost, it's owned by, that parcel is owned by the Nature Conservancy. They are looking at doing a large restoration effort. Projections for sea level rise suggest that much of this area will be in inundated parts of the year. We've all been watching the news on what happens, when we have big storms and things, just the last few weeks. Highly unlikely that people are going to be trying to build homes in this area. Also assuming that hazardous substances are stable and not moving. They are, as I mentioned earlier, they're isolated and they're not impacting the drinking water supply. The primary risk when we've been doing our risk assessments is that it's for the commercial and industrial workers when they come into contact with the substances by breathing it in or incidental ingestion. And so it's really, once we start moving the material, it's going to be more of an issue. Climate vulnerability. I'm not going to spend too much time on the chart. It's really more just to show that we had a full climate vulnerability assessment done for the Halaco site, and all the things that we see right now, monthly precipitation, particularly in the winter, it's going up. The precipitation frequency and intensity is going up. The risk of flooding is going up. But for the site, things like drought are also going to be an issue. There's a lot of things that we really have to take into consideration when we're coming up with the correct remedy for the site. These are just a couple of little snippets demonstrating that I used when talking with my management when thinking about, can we engineer a cap that is appropriate for the Halaco site? This first video was from the LA Times in Ventura, so just 10 miles up the road in December of last year. Pretty incredible. This other one, it's a little harder to see. I took it more just because I thought it was impressive. I live down in the San Diego area, and this is Ocean Beach. The Ocean Beach Pier is now closed following this storm because the wave activity was so strong that they can't allow people to be out on the pier anymore. And that's now. Most of our projections are, for, mid-century or late century. And if we're already experiencing this now, I definitely question how can we construct a remedy of cap and leave in place. So I am fighting for y'all, for what that's worth. Recognizing the City of Oxnard's 2030 general plan designates the area as resource protection. We have a very vocal community group, multiple groups. I've got Friends of Ormond Beach, and of course Nature Conservancy is working on collaborating with local, state, and federal partners to restore the area. Halaco is this little red dot here in the middle. Whatever we ultimately propose, particularly for Operable Unit 1, my goal is to have it be something that is cohesive with the rest of the efforts that are going in here. Can't promise what it will be, but I would really like it to be something that works with the rest of the restoration efforts. Just highlight of a few of the birds and other animals. So I said western snowy plover, the Belding Savannah sparrow, that was the one I couldn't remember, least tern, but there's also moths and plants and fish that are also in the area. This one really got me. I asked EPA headquarters, you tell me I have to cap and leave this in place as a presumptive remedy. Can you show me other sites where this has been done? These are the examples that I was offered for other areas where a cap had been left in place. And as you can see, none of them quite resemble Halaco. 3 of them are in Puget Sound, up in the Seattle area. One is up in Connecticut. This is actually in Lake Michigan, in Chicago. And I looked at this and I was just like, this just doesn't feel right. Even the site that was most similar to the Halaco site, Raritan Bay in New Jersey, I gave a presentation very similar to this at a conference a few weeks ago. And somebody who comes from this region came up to me afterwards and said, your site is nothing like Raritan Bay. So I don't want to get hopes up. My hopes are up, but I think that with this site demonstrating that on-site containment was not feasible in the long term, I'm cautiously optimistic that we can definitely do more here at the Halaco site. Just a little bit on community involvement. Community involvement is a statutory requirement, but it makes everybody so much more engaged. And we don't do this because it's a requirement. We want everyone to understand what's going on in their community, what impacts they're going to have. So as we're moving forward, not even so much with, it's important to get comments on the proposed plan and what we're looking to do. But once we actually say, all right, I put out the record of decision, I say, this is what we're going to do, then how are we going to do it? Because that process, it's a little bit like, right now we're in this very philosophical, how do we want to do this cleanup? But then the real work begins of basically hiring what amounts to architects and really laying out how are we going to do it. Are we going to use trucks? Are we going to use rail? Both of those have potential impacts with the community. And so we're definitely going to be wanting to engage the community almost more to make sure that what choices we're making are not adversely impacting the people who live in that area. I actually drove down to the Halaco site tonight. There's a lot of traffic on the road down there. I was actually quite surprised. And so, do we want trucks on those roads? Or how do we want to manage that? So definitely expect to see more. My goals, I want to continue to move forward with Operable Unit 2 cleanup. I plan to continue to evaluate Operable Unit 1 and the waste pile along the coastline and see what more can we do. Recognizing that The EPA has had a pretty flush budget the last few years, and it is becoming much less flush as we move forward. We also have an election coming up, and elections do play with our budget. So there's a lot of uncertainty. It is also possible that it just may take longer. But I really do want to determine if there's an operable Unit 1 cleanup that can fit in with what the community's ecosystem restoration plans are. And I want to ensure that the whole site cleanup progresses at least as quickly as humanly possible. So, operable Unit 1, looking at 2027, 2028. I know that's a really long time, but there's more sampling that we need to do. There's writing up of documents that we need to do. I would rather come back to you early with a document than overpromise and then have everyone knocking at my door, where's the proposed plan you promised. So looking at 2027, 2028. Fall of this year, though, for operable Unit 2, you will be seeing the feasibility study, recommendation of the cleanup plan or the proposed plan. I've been working with Adam for a public meeting. We're targeting December 12th. The release of the documents, we are targeting November 18th. There is a little bit of, there are some moving pieces that we're trying to get all lined up, but I think it's aggressive, but I think we can get there. And that will be an opportunity, the public meeting will be an opportunity for the public to come and tell me what they think. And then we are offering, because recognizing this is over the holiday period, proactively offering a 60-day comment period. Usually we only do 30 days, but we'll be keeping the comment period open through January 21st to allow people to get through the holiday period and not have to feel like they have to get all of their comments submitted. Assuming all of that goes well, 2025, the formal decision on what the cleanup will be for operable Unit 2. We call that the record of decision. And that will sort of set things in motion for getting the remedial design and then ultimately remedial action. And so hoping that we can begin moving contaminated soil and sediment in 2027, which from my conversations with Nature Conservancy should line up pretty closely with some of the work they're doing. So maybe we can impact the community just a little bit less in doing all of our work. So in conclusion, I don't think I had to sell you on this, but I think it's important that Halaco is a rare exposed coastal Superfund site. There are no other sites like this that I can find, at least not that are under the Superfund authority. It's located near low-income community experiencing multiple environmental justice impacts and concerns. There's an incredibly high level of community interest and concern about the remedy. I hosted a virtual community meeting a few weeks ago, and I had 50 people register for a virtual meeting. I was pretty impressed just to have that kind of a turnout. Whatever remedy we choose is going to be subject to sea level rise and coastal hazards. Wetlands are known to provide protection against coastal damage, and so whatever we can do to help restore them is going to be incredibly important as we go into the era of sea level rise. And there's multiple documented threatened and endangered species who make this area a home, and we want to hope that we can keep them around for a long time as well. So that was very high level. Any questions, please?
Thank you, Holly. I know Mayor Pro Tem has a question, but really, really good presentation. I really enjoyed that. I'm sure the council did and the public. Let me see. Do we have any speakers on this item, Madam Clerk?
We do not have any speakers on this item.
Okay, we'll start off with Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor Pro Tem's been working on this site for 200 years.
I have met Brian.
Thank you. On behalf of the city, in one form or another, I've been involved with the site since somewhere around 1996, and still, and I remember having wonderful conversations with some of the Hack family back in the 1990s. So, a couple questions. First, my observations. Last year we had a pretty substantial storm system come through, and we had about a 10,000-year storm, which was pretty unprecedented for us, caused a lot of flooding. Looking at the predictions for the upcoming year, they're predicting an atmospheric river that first will bother Northern California, but may ultimately get down to us, and that we may see more severe flooding than what we saw last year. The downside to that is that the water that doesn't run off to the ocean, and when you're at sea level, it's hard to get anything to run off, will percolate into the ground and raise the water table. So conceivably, our water table could come up from the bottom, penetrate the site from the underneath, and be exposed to hazardous materials that, from my understanding, are on the bottom level of the slag heap and also the foundry pile. And I think what people need to recognize is that OU1 is really split into two subcomponents. The front site, which is still owned by the Hack family, to my knowledge. The back site that was sold by the county for a tax foreclosure to an investment group is another group. So we're really working with two different groups here. And I'm just hoping that, if I recall correctly, there is some sort of a hotspot on the front half of OU1 under the Hack property. And I'm hoping that we're still continuing to have discussions with that family regarding that issue. But my other real concern is that if we have a strong storm again, the water table is going to rise up and we're going to have to deal with a lot of issues. And I'd really hope that EPA would consider revisiting the use of transporting the material out of state where it can be legitimately used for about 90% of the future, or 90% of the material, but I realize that's probably a long stretch. But capping it and leaving it in place just doesn't work for me because of the very real potential that water from underneath will come in, expose itself, and then spread around the other natural areas. So I will stop at that point and allow you for her response. Thank you.
No, thank you, Brian. As far as the water coming up from the perched aquifer, that's definitely a potential and helping to maybe mobilize some of the contamination a little bit. In talking with the hydrologists, we have no concern that it is going to reach the drinking water. So regardless of what kind of storm happens, the waste from the Halaco or contamination from the Halaco site will not reach the drinking water source. So that doesn't mean, that doesn't necessarily make everybody completely warm and fuzzy on the topic, but there's only so much we can do with the perched aquifer at this point. And I don't know that I have a better answer for you than that.
Okay, are we still in discussion with, or are you still in discussion with the family on the front parcel? Or?
I actually I received an email from John Hack, who is Mr. Hack's son, today regarding more about perimeter fencing and that, which has become quite problematic. Unfortunately, with the bankruptcy that occurred and some of the things that went along with that, they are no longer listed as a potentially liable party as far as cost recovery is concerned. So
I just hope we don't lose sight of the hotspot on the front
we have
parcel.
not lost sight of the hotspot. Unfortunately, there has also been digging that has been occurring in the hotspot, and so definitely it is on my mind to try and see how we can shore that up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Holly. I've been, we've been working on this thing for many, many years, and when you talked about the waste disposal, I know that many times in the past they talked about covering the site, like you mentioned. There was other ideas of barging it out into sea.
We're not going to do that.
Well, they were talking about that too. And the other two, using it as landfill cover. And a lot of concerns were driving down Ventura Road or Channel Islands to Victoria to 101. And what if the thing spills in the highway, those kind of issues.
It's a challenge. I mean, it's, we have to, and that's when I come to you all with a proposed remedy for operable unit 1. That will be the opportunity to say, we like this, we don't like this. I don't know where that's portion of the site is going to go. It's definitely, it's a conundrum in that, the presumptive remedy for a landfill such as the Halaco property is to cap it and leave it in place.
Yeah.
And but it is a very unique site, and so we have to think outside the box, but we don't normally make a habit of moving a landfill from one location to another. And I have to come up with enough data to demonstrate to EPA management that it is the right direction.
The other thing you mentioned was human health risks. I know at one time they were thinking of building homes, which is absolutely, I don't think it's a good idea. They were thinking of maybe making a park out of it too, and it was.
It's hard because people hear the word Superfund site, and there's this incredible spectrum of what constitutes a Superfund site. And this question actually came up during the community meeting we had a few weeks ago, as we keep hearing it's not that toxic. Compared to other sites, really, I hate to say it, is not, walking on the site. And we've walked on the site without respiratory protection. It is not the most contaminated site that we have. That being said, it is contaminated enough that it was warranted to be listed on the national priorities list, which is EPA's running list of all of the different Superfund sites we are managing in the country. And then it does need to have, and it does need to be managed. But it's a lot of the metals, like copper, and some tend to be much more of a risk to the birds and wildlife, which is why we are so focused on that for the wetlands area and making sure we're cleaning that area up. But as far as the casual wildlife viewer, we're not terribly concerned. I mean, not to say that there is zero risk. Don't tell your kids to go biking over there. I had somebody say, "Oh yeah, but kids have been dirt biking." So like, no, please don't do that, because it's really when you're ingesting it, if you're breathing it, that's when it really starts to become a problem.
And the last one that I have is, I'm sure that other council members might have something, is the sea level rise. I know the Mayor Pro Tem talk about, look at the hurricanes that happened in Florida. Well, we had 6 inches of rain overnight here in Oxnard. Can they potentially dig up all that material? The ocean or whatever? That's something we got to look at.
No, absolutely. And that's why I show that video. That video was during part of that was December 29th, part of, when we were getting those 15, 20-foot waves.
That's right.
It was just absolutely incredible. And it really gave me pause and caused me to redirect and go back to my management and say, I can't. I mean, I was handed a draft document that was to cap and leave in place, and I went to him and said, I can't do this.
And hopefully that we can actually do this work quickly, like you said, in the goal. Because we've been working on this for years and years and years.
I'll do my best.
Thank you, Ali, on my part. Maybe the council members, Tehran.
Thank you. Just a quick thing. Thank you for the presentation. I noted that we didn't have the slides as of yet on our agenda attachments for this evening's meeting. Is this something that we'll be able to make available for the public? I know they can watch the video, but if they want to review the slides.
I'll get them to Adam as a PDF. Unfortunately, those videos make it too big to send.
Sure.
And we just hadn't connected yet. But I will send them to you tonight.
Thank you for that. And just along those lines, thank you for your commitment to engage the community in this process, not just because it's what we have to do, but it's certainly the right thing to do.
Important.
And anything that I can do as an individual council member, and I'd imagine my colleagues would agree, to help promote that and get folks to in-person meetings or online opportunities to provide input to you all, happy to commit to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Basua.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much for the presentation. Ormond, part of Ormond Beach is in the district that I represent, so it's important for me to try to at least try to do something.
Absolutely.
But with the operable Unit 1 that you mentioned, you said that right now there's really no direction as far as how you're going to go. What is the possibility of it just remaining and just, we're never going to. As it is? Zero.
Something has to happen.
Okay, great.
Something. Now, at the end of the day, our budget gets completely slashed and they say all you can do is cap and leave in place. That would be the worst case scenario.
Okay.
Something has to happen.
Okay, so something will happen. We just don't know when. It can be 2030, 2035, but something at some point will happen.
And as part of, and I didn't speak to this, but as part of the efforts for Operable Unit 2, we want to make sure that what we're doing doesn't get recontaminated. And so we will be doing additional work to try and ensure that the waste pile is not migrating, and do additional stabilization of the pile as part of that effort.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for all your hard work.
Councilman Venezuela.
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation. I believe this is the third meeting I've been in with you giving this presentation, so I'm glad my peers got to see it. And, I've been able to share a lot of this information with residents in my district about the concern for Ormond Beach and the Halaco site. And I know a lot of this takes time and the federal funding to move forward on this, and I think it's just a little not your fault. But I think everyone's a little frustrated about the slowness on this because of the, as you said, the political atmosphere and moving the funding towards this. But very thankful for this presentation. Look forward to seeing what happens in the next couple months on the OU1. Thank you.
All right. Oh, you too.
Councilor Perillo.
OU2.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I was able to attend one of your very early presentations with community group. You're doing a tremendous job.
Thank you.
And I appreciate this because there's a tremendous amount of people in Oxnard that oftentimes think the city is doing nothing about this. This is not a city sole standalone issue.
Right.
I appreciate this information. I'm sure it'll be shared with a lot of groups. Hang in there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Holly, and thank you for the presentation. We learn a lot every time that we hear about what you're saying. Thank you for the good work, and hurry up and do it.
Doing my best, doing my best.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
all for the positive feedback, and don't be afraid to ask the hard questions.
Thank you. This is a receive and file, so our next item is item D2. This is the City Attorney's Department, gun violence restraining orders, a critical tool to help reduce gun violence. Recommendation that City Council receive a presentation by the Ventura County District Attorney's Office, Oxnard Police Department, and the City Attorney's Office regarding gun violence restraining orders, a critical tool to help reduce gun violence. Mr. Fisher, can you?
Excuse me, Mayor. I do have an announcement.
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Valenzuela joined the meeting at 4:35 PM today.
Thank you. Steve?
Thank you, Mayor. So for this item, I'd like to bring up to the podium Deputy City Attorney Andrew Gonzalez, who's put a lot of work in the City Attorney's Office on this issue and has worked closely with the DA's office as well.
Thank you, Andrew.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Andrew Gonzalez, Deputy City Attorney. We have a presentation regarding gun violence restraining orders tonight. That was a joint effort by the District Attorney's Office, Oxnard Police Department, and the Oxnard City Attorney's Office. Here we have Ricole Kelly is a Deputy District Attorney at the Ventura County District Attorney's Office. She currently works as the Family Justice Center on-site prosecutor overseeing the gun violence restraining order and firearm relinquishment unit, offering direct services to victims and providing training and outreach. Ricole's going to start the presentation off, and then we have some slides that are Oxnard specific.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, members, staff, and community members. As mentioned, my name is Ricole Kelly, and I am here to talk to you both as an educational tool, as well as a commendation to the Oxnard Police Department and the City Attorney's Office. Gun violence restraining orders are a relatively new weapon in the battle against gun violence. We're all familiar with domestic violence restraining orders, or maybe civil harassment restraining orders, but very few people are familiar with gun violence restraining orders. These are unique because they do not prohibit a certain person from contacting a protected party, but rather they protect the community at large. Gun violence restraining orders are a tool that allow an individual to become a prohibited person for the purpose of possessing firearms. I want to talk to you a little bit about the inception of this gun violence restraining order, which some people refer to as red flag laws. You may remember in 2014, our neighbors to the north, Santa Barbara County, suffered a tragic incident involving a young man who was demonstrating serious mental illness and erratic behavior that his family was aware of and made law enforcement aware of. However, he possessed legal firearms, and law enforcement did not have a mechanism to do anything, to take any action. Unfortunately, that tragedy resulted in the death of 6 people and injured 13 innocent humans. So the legislature responded. In 2016, they enacted red flag laws, or the ability for law enforcement to obtain a gun violence restraining order. But it was exclusive to law enforcement. The law enforcement could obtain an emergency gun violence restraining order to temporarily prevent a person who is at risk from hurting themselves or other, and it would then allow them to obtain those firearms, even if legally possessed, obtain those firearms temporarily. That law expanded in 2020 to allow certain categories of individuals who would have a relationship that they might be privy to information that law enforcement wasn't. Those people include police officers, of course, but also close family members. It includes roommates, former romantic partners and current romantic partners, employers or coworkers, as well as school teachers or employees. And the reason the legislature enacted this broader gun violence restraining order was because it was aware that law enforcement doesn't always have all of the information. And this tool is so valuable to preventing mass violence that we should make it available while still protecting the rights and the Second Amendment. In fact, we do value the Second Amendment, and the legislature made it very clear that this had to be lawful and constitutional. And so while, of course, individuals have the right to bear arms, the United States Supreme Court recently confirmed and affirmed that the disarmament of individuals who pose a credible threat to the physical safety of others is constitutional under certain circumstances, specifically gun violence restraining orders. So what is the real purpose here? We're not just trying to get out and snatch people's guns or infringe upon anyone's right to bear arms, but rather the aim of the gun violence restraining orders is to temporarily withhold firearms for individuals who are in crisis, whether it be a mental health situation or a substance abuse situation or just simply a behavioral issue. But one way or the other, it gives the opportunity for the individuals to seek treatment or stabilize or become once again safe so that they can responsibly possess those firearms and therefore keep our community safe. So when we expanded the gun violence restraining orders to allow community members, some examples might be a coworker who observes that an individual has been isolating himself, who's exhibiting threatening behavior, making remarks to other coworkers that are alarming, posting violent content online. And if that coworker is aware that that individual possesses firearms, they could seek to apply for a gun violence restraining order. Now, again, this doesn't go without checks and balances. So an individual from the community could apply, file the paperwork that would allow them to seek an ex parte, which is the community member, gun violence restraining order. And a judge would have to verify that there is sufficient evidence that the facts presented before the judge were sufficient to allow a gun violence temporary restraining order to go into place. That temporary restraining order would last for typically 21 days, at which point there would then be a formal hearing, which the individual, the respondent, would have an opportunity to present evidence and challenge the evidence against him or her. And so they'd have an opportunity to stand before a judge and exercise their due process rights. At that point, at that hearing, the judge would make a determination of whether or not a gun violence restraining order was reasonable and was appropriate for between 1 and 5 years. And with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague, the City Attorney's Office.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As to the Oxnard specific slides, here for the year of 2024 so far, the City Attorney's Office representing the Oxnard Police Department has so far filed 15 GVROs. On the next slide, we're going to go over a case that although the Oxnard City Attorney's Office has represented the Oxnard Police Department in many cases, the following slide really hammers home why GVROs are so important. Here, the case demonstrates that the individual is a significant danger of causing personal injury to themselves or another by having a firearm, which is the section inside of the code for gun violence restraining orders that we have to demonstrate to the court. Here specifically, according to the countywide statistics provided by the City of Oxnard by the Ventura County District Attorney's Office, so far in 2024, 42 gun violence restraining orders have been filed with the Ventura County Superior Court, and this is for all of Ventura County. Of those that have been filed, of the 42, 23 gun violence restraining orders have been granted countywide. 12 of those 23 granted are from the City of Oxnard. So we're basically a little over half of all the ones that have been granted in the county. The City of Oxnard has filed 15 gun violence restraining orders in 2024. We filed 15 in 2023, and we have filed 14 in 2022. And just for kind of the distinguation here, filing a gun violence restraining order gets you that 21-day period that my colleague Ricole went over. You have to go forward before that 21-day period expires for you to go forward with a permanent hearing. So when we say that there's been ones that have been filed, it's that 21-day period. The ones that have actually been granted are the ones that extend beyond that. The city can ask for, and anyone can ask for, from 1 to 5 years for the individual to have a gun violence restraining order. The case example that really demonstrates and hammers home why gun violence restraining orders are important deals with an individual that on April 1st, 2024, while being arrested for battery, respondent resisted arrest, and respondent stated that if the Oxnard Police Department returned to his residence that he would shoot Oxnard Police Department officers. Respondent actively resists being arrested by the Oxnard Police Department by tensing up his body, trying to pull away from officers, squirming on the ground, and pushing his foot against the wall with so much force that the respondent put his foot completely through the wall, causing a hole in the wall. Respondent was arrested for battery towards his mother's boyfriend, who told officers that respondent had previously made several suicidal and aggressive statements. The Oxnard Police Department transported respondent to the hospital for a medical clearance where respondent became aggressive, continued resisting officers, and stated that officers were going to work for their money and that he was ready to catch charges. While officers were placing respondent into a police unit, respondent specifically stated, "If you guys come to my house, I'm going to shoot you." While driving to the Ventura County Main Jail, respondent made several threatening statements that if he had guns when officers had arrived, that he would have, there had been a different outcome. Respondent stated several times that he wished he had guns when the officers had arrived. Respondent stated that when he got out of jail, that he would find all the officers who participated in the arrest. The Oxnard Police Department collected respondent's AR-15 assault rifle, and in this particular case, the city attorney's office asked for and was granted a 5-year restraining order against this individual. The way that those restraining orders work is the individual cannot have guns for that period unless for whatever reason the individual petitions the court because things have changed in that time frame. The same thing goes for if we were to get a restraining order that was a smaller amount of time and the individual did some sort of concern where it goes back to that significant danger where we can extend that gun violence restraining order timeline. And with that, I'm going to hand it back over to my colleague, Ricole, to finish up the presentation.
So again, I mentioned that this would have some recognition to the Oxnard City Attorney's Office as well as the Oxnard Police Department because, as you can see, historically, gun violence restraining orders have been underutilized. In 2016, there was one gun violence restraining order in Ventura County. Now we can see in 2023, there were 46 for the whole year. And now here, as of the September 30th date, there have been 42 gun violence restraining orders sought and obtained here in Ventura County. And as mentioned, Oxnard has a bulk of them. And that is great news because that means that these are individuals who, by a preponderance of the evidence, had risk factors that were associated with gun violence. They had risk factors and they had access to firearms. And the case example Andrew just discussed really hits that home, that we save lives when we utilize these and utilize these correctly. And so that's part of the reason I'm here today, is because over 66% of the population had never even heard of a gun violence restraining order as of 2020. And I'm sure many of you may be thinking the same thing here today. Further, only 56% of officers in law enforcement had ever heard of or received training on gun violence restraining orders. But the Ventura County District Attorney's Office and Eric Nazarenko are seeking to change that. And so we are out here in the community. We have trained law enforcement throughout the county, and we are seeing a drastic increase in the recognition of cases where gun violence restraining orders are appropriate, and those are being sought and obtained. And so the reason I really am here today is to spread the word and make sure that you know, and that you can take back in your various capacities the information that this tool is available, not just to law enforcement, but also to members of the public. It serves to protect the community as well as the individual. And that's something I want to emphasize, that this isn't just a threat of mass violence, but it also can pertain to threats of suicidal individuals. That is sufficient evidence to support a gun violence restraining order. So please, I hope that you have all received information that it might be new to you, and you take it back in your various capacities. And I do just want to let you know that we also have an amazing team that works in tandem with law enforcement called the Firearm Relinquishment Unit. And our lead investigator, Freddie Padilla, is here today in the audience. And he assists law enforcement in obtaining gun violence restraining orders, as well as when those firearms need to be relinquished. He is a great asset and a resource in that regard. And so with that, I will open it up to any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Kelly. I have Councilman Toronto wants to ask a quick question. The quick question I have, is California one of the states that have red flags laws? Or, because I know other states have, if you look at the national events, some don't want it and some do and so forth, so.
I think as of last count, 28 states have some form of red flag law. Now, Governor Newsom just signed a great deal of legislation that will take effect. We are definitely front runners in the fight against gun violence. And so that is something that is, we are on the forefront.
Well, thank you for working, with our city attorney and our police department and Andrew, and good job. So Councilman Turan.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation to both of you. I think Mr. Gonzalez actually answered my first question here, but just so I can have it here for the record, are there certain types of crimes or incidents or arrests that might automatically initiate a gun violence restraining order? I think the example you gave is probably one of them, of making statements like that. Is that correct?
Yeah, we also have the Oxnard Police Department here as well to answer any additional questions. But just in general, if the individual poses a significant danger to himself or others, either if there is a gun or weapon involved towards another individual, to go back to the suicidal statements, if they're making, saying that they're going to shoot themselves, something to that, we can move forward with a gun violence restraining order. Generally, the Oxnard Police Department will move forward with emergency protective order so that we start those 21 days for us to have time to move forward with the permanent order. But was there any particular cases you wanted to cite or anything?
I think the city attorney's office pretty much hit it. Oftentimes, any crime involving a gun is going to be an automatic trigger for gun violence restraining order, with the exception of somebody's already prohibited. We might not need to seek it because they're already prohibited from having firearms to begin with. But common ones you would see were domestic violence, assault, a deadly weapon. Those are pretty much automatic triggers for a GVO.
Sure. And when we have those types of incidents with the person, if they make statements around, I'm going to do this action, certainly that would automatically initiate it. I think that was a good example you gave, but would it be, since we have, the public, watching this, and this is on the public record, is it accurate to say that if a person has access to firearms, but that's not known to law enforcement or to those who are responding to an incident, if they're being arrested or detained, is that worth mentioning to that person if it seems they're a danger to themselves or others? Should that be mentioned?
Yeah, yes, it should be mentioned, because not only for the officers involved and all the individuals involved, but when I eventually go for this permanent order, I need to let the judge know if the individual has registered firearms. And generally, the PD would be aware of that and confiscate those. But occasionally what will happen is there's firearms that were not inside of the home or something like that. So any kind of that information would be great for me to be able to provide to the judge.
Great, thank you. And just the last couple questions here. I noticed that of the statistics that you shared, Mr. Gonzalez, about the GVROs that were applied for, there were a number that were denied. What's typical reasons that we would have for denial, or is there like a most common reason that it wouldn't be found valid to issue a GVRO for a person?
So we've yet to actually have a gun violence restraining order that was outright denied. Where you get that discrepancy is a lot of the times, or not a lot of the times, occasionally they are continued. So the scenario there will be if there's a separate district attorney's office case dealing with a possibility of like a felony, the individual will ask, can this continue pending that matter? And because the temporary restraining order would continue for that time frame, generally we would be okay with that because it's as if they were prohibited for that amount of time regardless. So what would happen is eventually if that felony charge went through, causing the individual to not be able to get firearms as a condition of that felony charge, at that point we would generally dismiss the matter. That's kind of where you get
I see. So it's not necessarily denial so much as a different path or a different outcome. The same outcome happens, but through a different pathway legally, it sounds like.
Exactly. Gun violence restraining orders are just one tool of several that would make someone a prohibited person. A felony conviction, if a temporary or a domestic violence restraining order or a civil harassment order, elder protection or criminal protective order, all of those would seek to serve the same end game that a gun violence restraining order would. So we do see that. We have on occasion had ones where an individual actually sought treatment on their own and ultimately did file a petition. I don't believe that was an Oxnard case, and filed a petition to have the gun violence restraining order lifted. And that can be evaluated by a judicial officer as well.
I see. Okay. My last 2 points here, and maybe our sergeant can mention this one, but what typically are the consequences for a prohibited person via GVRO if they're found in possession or with access to a firearm?
Yes, and I forgot to introduce myself, Sergeant Dale McAlpine with the Oxnard Police Department's Family Protection Unit. Yes, so generally there's laws depending on their nature of prior conviction sometimes or possession of gun violence. It could be a felony or misdemeanor. It just depends on the circumstances for each case, but generally it's automatic arrest once we catch somebody who's prohibited from while being in possession of a firearm.
I see. And that would be whether it be through GVRO or other reasons that they're a prohibited person. All right.
Correct.
And my last question, and it's really just reiterating what was stated in the presentation, anybody, it seems like, can request these. And I think the examples you had with the quotes were really good examples. Someone saying, hey, I'm concerned about my coworker, I'm concerned about a student, right? So the general public, if they have concerns about someone who they feel is maybe a possible danger to themselves or others, but has access to firearms, they can initiate this process, correct?
That is correct, but they do have to have a relationship with the individual that fits in one of those categories, such as school employee, romantic partner, roommate, et cetera.
Some direct relationship.
Exactly. And so assuming that direct relationship, then yes, any member of the public can it's 6 forms, which sounds daunting, but they are fairly straightforward and they can be found on the California court website.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank
Much
you,
appreciated.
Congressman Valenzuela.
Yes, thank you, Assistant City Attorney Gonzalez and Deputy DA Kelly for coming. So I'm very thankful to see that you are bringing this to the Oxnard City Council and bringing public awareness to this. And I think during the beginning of your presentation, you mentioned the shootings that took place in Isla Vista. I was actually a student at UCSB when that took place. That evening, I was coming back from the Gaviota along the Gaviota coast. I was coming back from a political fundraiser and I was driving my friends back into Isla Vista, but I stopped, hey, they ran out of food, let's get Jack in the Box right there, right outside of UCSB. So we got there, and as we're leaving, we're driving back into El Colegio Road, and my friend was like, hey, there's a shooting on Isla Vista. I'm like, are you sure that's not a rumor? And then all of a sudden we see all these police vehicles and fire swarming into Isla Vista. And so we ended up just turning around for about an hour waiting for that to whatever the situation was at the time, we didn't know like where to settle. And we came back and like, yeah, we saw the news, we like read all the information. It was a very difficult time for a lot of us. And so like it really hits close to my heart when I like see like the growing movement on gun violence restraining orders here in California. And I was actually also very lucky to work for Assemblymember Williams, the author of the bill, who brought this forward and got signed into law in 2014 and acted in 2016. So thank you very much for bringing attention. I know if this law could have been in place before, it would have prevented that incident. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Perrella?
Yes, two questions. Number one, if a restraining order is placed against an individual, are all guns from the home removed? All guns, even if they belong to other people in the home?
Yes, so in order to be, if they are a prohibited person, they are prohibited from accessing or having guns within their possession or control. It does not just have to be registered to them. So it would need to be investigated and verified that all guns that are within their possession and control have been either transferred, sold, or otherwise removed. And Freddie, is there anything you'd like to add on that?
My name's Freddie. I'm an investigator with the DA's office. So if you have a circumstance where a father has hunting rifles and the prohibited person does live with a family member, the only guns that we have access to are the ones that are prohibited. They have to reassure us that the other firearms in the household, he or she does not have access to, and they're locked up in a separate.
They have to be locked, is that what it is?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. And my second question, with respect to the individuals, a domestic partner of a public safety officer is given the same authority to make the complaint and is treated the same as if anybody made a complaint, correct?
Yes, this is a law that applies to the public, and assuming they fit in one of those categories, then yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation.
Again, thank you so much to Ms. Kelly and Ms. Padilla and a police officer and Andrew, city attorney. Excellent presentation and very informative. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any
Mayor
speakers?
Zaragoza? Yes, we have two virtual speakers. Yes.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Okay, so the first speaker is going to be caller with phone number ending in 2521. Please press *6 to unmute and introduce yourself if you like, and you have 3 minutes.
Well, hello, this is Grant Kennedy, and I just wanted to give if people call and complain all the time, I just wanted to call and give a nice shout out to Rose, who's absolutely phenomenal, helping me get set up my first time. And also, I got a very nice email with an update today from a gentleman in your department by the name of Jeff Stigley, I believe it is. I apologize if I said that wrong. I don't have the email in front of me. But gave me a very nice update on my client's project, which is Elsa Wright. She's got a project over on 730 East 5th Street. And she's been trying to get permits for some time. And I wrote, and Jeff got back to me and wrote something down. So I just really want to say thank you for that step, and thank you for being responsible and let me know the status on it. And it's been here in this effort. It's been very reasonable. I would just say, please, 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 with all your heart, stop, pause, and think about what literally the delay is to somebody who's applying for permit, and what it costs and how long she's waited. She had 3 applications, 6.5 months, and just put it in your heart and say, wow, could we do better on this? But I really do thank Jeff, and I really thank Rose, and I know you're all working hard to get everything done. So that's all I wanted to say. Get back to business, and thank you for putting up with me. I know it's not easy.
Thank you. Next speaker, Madam Clerk. Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is caller with phone number ending in 5300. Please press *6 to unmute, and you have 3 minutes, please.
Hey, good evening, Oxnard. How you doing? My name is Albert. Sorry I couldn't be there today to speak in front of all of you. I just wanted to kind of give us a little, a speech about how we need to also, it's difficult. We all have our good days and bad days, but, this is our city, and we need to live with pride and energy and everything that we do, whether you work at the hospitals, you work at a grocery store, you work at, a little boutique shop. We need to kind of have that pride and that competitiveness to be the best and to look at each other and to see what we could do to uplift each other. One of the inspirations for this is, seeing this recent survey that was done about kind of like the youth and the younger kids and the next generation. I think that, one of the beautiful things about being Mexican is that it doesn't matter where you grow up, it's in your blood, because there's a bloodline of pride and strength. And then when you grow up here in the United States, in the greatest country, right? So you combine that blood of like strength and vigor with a spirit of just wanting to be the best. It just leads us to be unstoppable. And you don't have to be Mexican to be unstoppable. You just have to be a brother and sister. We have to look up to each other and uplift each other. Whether it's, you see a kid smoking weed or drinking, we need to step up and, be a friend to them. Talk to people, talk to kids. The older we get, the more knowledge that we obtain, and we have to pass that on to the kids and the next generation. It's adopt a friend, adopt a, so to speak, a little sister, a little brother. The Big Sister, Big Brother program, they do great work. It takes 2 hours a week just having a conversation with those kids. Look into your neighborhood. If we hear about a gas station opening up or a smoke shop opening up, let's try to minimize that. You don't see that in the best neighborhoods, right? Less gas stations, less smoke shops, less, tobacco, marijuana. Those things are not going to create a culture of positivity that we all need. So we need to kind of, make sure that we wake up every day with enthusiasm to be the best.
30 seconds left.
And I thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, any additional speakers, either virtually or here?
Mayor Zaragoza, there's no additional speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Okay, thank you. So our next item is the opening ceremonies, and I want to have all of you join me in saluting our flag. But before we do that, I want to come out with a moment of silence for Mr. Bob Nast, a board member who died just a few days ago and served with the Ventura Regional Sanitation District with Councilmember Perella for many, many years. Councilman Perella, you'd like to share anything?
Yes. Mr. Robert Bob Nast served the Channel Islands Beach, served as a board member on the Channel Islands Beach Community Services District. He served as a representative for the special districts in Ventura County on the Ventura Regional Sanitation District. That's where I got to meet him. The individuals that represent special districts, they only serve for 1 year each term. He served multiple terms on that board. He was an advocate for his community, and he was an advocate for the county. He talked to him at a meeting last Thursday. Things happened, and he passed away. His wife wanted to let us know that he had passed away, and I want to take a moment of silence. This gentleman had the best interests of the community at heart. Never once did I ever hear him say anything that would personally benefit him or any organization. It was always the community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much. So we'll stand up to salute our flag, and then we'll have a moment of silence. Please follow me. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Okay, so now we have testing. Okay, we have some proclamations that we'd like to share at this time, and this is to the Filipino community, Filipino American history, and we have a couple of speakers or acceptance. We have Colleen Morala and also Jen Benitez. Can you come up, and all the folks that are with you today? the Filipino community. Coming up to the dais. Mayor Pro Tem. You can come up, yeah, come up.
That's for this. Después.
Thank you, nice to see you again. The whole gang here. Ronald, is Ronald coming? Ronald, coming up. Thank you.
How about Jen's family?
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Who else? Who else should come up?
Jen's family.
Jen's family? Thank you for coming up. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Jen's family coming up. Okay, thank you. Welcome. This is Proclamation Filipino American History Month, October 2024, whereas the earliest documented Filipino presence in the continental United States was on October 18, 1587, when the first Luzon Indios arrived at Morro Bay, California, aboard the galleon Nuestra Señora de Esperanza, and whereas the first permanent Filipino settlements in the U.S. was established in 1763 in St. Malo, Louisiana. Whereas the Filipino American community is the second largest Asian community group in the U.S. with a population of approximately 3.1 million folks. Where Filipino servicemen and women have a long history in the U.S. Armed Forces, including 25,000 Filipinos who fought under the U.S. flag during World War II. And whereas 9 Filipino Americans have received the Congressional Medal of Honor for their bravery in action. Where Filipino Americans play a vital role in the history of healthcare systems as nurses, doctors, and other medical professionals. Where the Filipino American contributed to significant of arts, music, literature, business, science, government, and many more enriching cultural landscapes of our country. Filipino American farm workers, including Larry, and you can
Leon.
Leon, I didn't want to mispronounce it, and Felipe Veracruz, and thousands of others were instrumental in the fight for labor rights and social justice, organizing the 1965 Delano grape strike that led to the formation of the Union Farm Workers, UFW Union, along Cesar Chavez. And we're promoting the study of Filipino American history and culture. It's important as the contributions have often been overlooked by U.S. history. Filipino American youth should have positive role models that embrace the importance of education and richness and other heritage. Where the Filipino American Council of Ventura County Incorporated was established in 1987, is recognized as a Filipino American History Month on October 2024. Now therefore I, John Z. Zaragoza, Mayor of the City of Oxnard, proclaim the month of October as Filipino American History, as we urge all residents to celebrate the history and culture of the Filipino Americans and the immense contributions that you provided for our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor and City of Oxnard. I'm Jen. I'm the founder of Pinay Sphere. This is our first proclamation for Filipino American History Month. Our mission is to amplify Pinays in the community with art programming, exhibitions, and workshops. We recently did a mural at the Island Pacific Supermarket honoring Larry Leong and the fight of Cesar Chavez along with Dolores Huerte. We have an event coming up on Saturday. It's called Pinay Picnic in the Park. It's in Camarillo. It's from 11 to 5. It'll have a bunch of local artists, entrepreneurs celebrating the month of Filipino American History Month. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. We have, I think we have a speaker also. We have Ronald. Ronald. Or you want to speak first?
Can I speak? Okay, sounds
No,
good.
you can speak up here when we get ready.
All right, so, well, you want to go first? So my name is Charlene Morla Garcia. I'm the Executive Director for the Filipino American Council, and we are the umbrella organization for 14 other Filipino organizations here in Ventura County. And I just want to say on behalf of the Filipino American Council of Ventura County, our board of directors, and our officers, and the Filipino American community, we wanted to extend a heartfelt gratitude to the City Council for this meaningful proclamation recognizing October as Filipino American History Month. And your acknowledgement of our contributions, of our rich heritage, is deeply appreciated. This celebration not only honors the history of Filipino Americans, but also highlights the invaluable role that diversity plays in shaping our city. So we just wanted to say thank you for the proclamation, and I'm going to pass this over to Ronald.
This is for Charlene, right?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I meant this for public comment, but thank you for inviting me here on the dais. So according to the Filipino American National History Society, Filipino Americans are the second largest Asian American group in the nation and the third largest ethnic group in California after Hispanic and African Americans. The celebration of Filipino American History Month in October commemorates the first recorded presence of Filipinos in the continental United States. And in 2009, the US Congress recognized October as Filipino American History Month in the United States. With Filipinos making up almost 7% of the Oxnard population, with an estimated 13,000 from just a couple hundred in the 1960s, Oxnard has been welcoming towards all people and the Filipino community. An important part of the city's fabric. The greatest population and number of Filipinos in Ventura County are in the Oxnard area and are getting more involved through community organizations, religious institutions, and governmental bodies. Many Filipinos, myself included, are grateful that we live in a city in which our culture and traditions are being highlighted. We hope that this proclamation is not without action and that Filipino Americans are not just heard, but also are sought after to ensure the richness and diversity that we all deserve. When I was a kid, I remember looking in my history book and seeing that one section, or sometimes just a paragraph, on the Philippines in World War II of how the US freed the country from Japanese occupation, but nothing on Filipino American contributions to this country. Like as was mentioned before, I now know about Larry Itliong's contributions to United Farm Workers, along with Cesar Chavez, and now Tani Cantil Sakuyi, becoming the first Filipino American to serve as the Chief Justice of the California Supreme Court. And there is now the first elected statewide Filipino American in California, Attorney General Bob Bonta, who is also the first to serve in the California State Legislature. Closer to home in Oxnard, many of us Filipino Americans still remember the contributions of Tony Gray, founder of the Filipino American Council of Ventura County in 1987 and spearheading this city's annual Philippine Independence Day. He not only pushed for the city's Filipino American population to get more involved, he got himself involved with the city's government, such as serving as the chair of the Planning Commission, and until just recently becoming the only Filipino American to have run for Oxnard City Council since 1993. I urge everyone not to just celebrate the accomplishments of the past and the present, but to also do the hard work in getting involved in your community, whether that be through social, community, religious, and governmental organizations for the future. Thank you.
We want to take a picture, but one of the things important, Ronald, that you forgot to mention, is really important, and the rest of the folks, it's the excellent food that you guys cook. Thank you so much. So, you want to take a photo, you said?
You want to introduce each member?
Do you want to introduce some members?
Yeah.
Yes.
You start off, Mija, go ahead. Go ahead and mention
This way, okay.
Good evening, I'm Melanie Caliboso, and I am an Associate Director for the Filipino American Council.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Pasion, and I'm an Associate Director.
No.
Well, that's Jen Benitez again with Pinay Sphere. Again, my name is Charlene, and this is my mom, and she's my biggest supporter. So.
Good evening. My name is Grace Toisen, Deputy Director for Filipino American Council of Ventura County.
Hello, I'm Anne Amon. I'm the treasurer for the Filipino American Council of Ventura County.
Good evening, magandang gabi po. My name is Chito Tangan. I'm currently the president of the Filipino Nurses Association of Ventura County Incorporated, serving all of the hospitals in Southern California. So,
My name is Nenita Atangan. I'm the better half of Chito, and I have the assistant secretary for the Filipino American Nurses Association of Ventura.
Hello, everyone. Ronald Arwejo, Chair of the East Village Neighborhood, Chair of the Planning Commission. Thank you.
So another picture?
Could we get them to squeeze in a little bit?
Okay, let me go sideways, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Can you get in, son? Okay. Thank you. Put your hands together again for the Filipino community. Thank you so much for your good work. Thank you, Mija. Thank you so much. Appreciate it very, very much. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Good job. Okay, so we do have another proclamation, and this is the Arts and Humanities. I'd like to call, let me see, Julia Estrada and your people. Julie, where are you? Coming up. How many people do you have with Terrell's people there? Coming up. Where are they? Mr. Harrison, coming up here. Mia, thank you so much. Hi, Mia, how you doing? Come back. Hey, I know you. Okay, this is Proclamation Arts and Humanities Month, October 2024. Whereas the month of October has been recognized as the Arts and Humanities Month for thousands of arts and cultural organizations, communities, and states across this country, as well as for almost 40 years. Whereas arts and humanity enhances aspects of life in the city of Oxnard, improving our economy, enriching our civic life, driving tourism, exerting a profound positive influence on the education of our children. Whereas arts and humanities play a unique role in the lives of our families and communities and our state. Whereas art education research shows that the arts help to foster discipline, creativity, imagination, self-expression, problem-solving skills, while also bringing and developing heightened appreciation of beauty and cross-culture understanding. Whereas the arts and culture industry has strengthened our economy by generating $1.57 billion in total economy annually and $25 billion in governmental revenue. That one's really important, right here. It's 29 million revenue for a guy. And also supporting the full-time equivalent of 5 million jobs. Now therefore, I, John Zaragoza, Mayor of the City of Oxnard, proclaim October as Arts and Humanity Month in the City of Oxnard and call upon all the community to support, celebrate, and promote the arts and culture in our city and Ventura County, and also specifically encourage participation by our residents. This is signed by the mayor. Young lady, you like to share a couple of words? Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Julia Estrada. I'm the Cultural Arts Programs Manager. October is National Arts and Humanities Month, and according to the leader of this movement, Americans for the Arts, this month is to be a collective recognition of the importance of culture in America. This year's theme, The Arts Within You, aims to inspire active participation in fostering positive change and promote a vibrant, inclusive society through the arts. Oxnard is lucky to have so many talented artists and nonprofits dedicated to celebrating the arts all year long. The Culture and Community Services Department is committed to expanding opportunities for young people to express themselves and celebrate the cultures that make up the Oxnard community. We have programs like the Oxnard Arts Academy that provides music instruction at the Colonial Recreation Center and visual arts classes at the main library, South Oxnard Branch Library, and Southwinds Youth Center. Our Mini Murals program is dedicated to breaking up the concrete in downtown. This past August, we were lucky enough to have those efforts recognized by cartoonist Rob Armstrong, the artist behind the comic strip Jumpstart, and the Apple TV special Welcome Home Franklin. On November 1st through November 3rd, we will once again celebrate El Dia de los Muertos on the steps of the Carnegie Museum. Community members are welcome to bring photos of their loved ones to help keep the memories of our community members alive. Thank you to the Mayor and City Council for recognizing Arts and Humanities Month. We hope to continue to bring opportunities like these to Oxnard families and celebrate that art is for everyone.
Thank you so much. Put your hands together for the this is really great. Mr. Harrison, would you like to share a couple?
I think Julie said it all, and it's wonderful to work within this community and with the staff because I just point the way and they get us there. So congratulations.
Thank you. And you know, one of the important things they put together too is Dia de los Muertos there at the Carnegie. It's really, really important. And also the murals that you paint all over the city, which is really good. And all the good things you do for the city of Oxnard, which is really, really important for our children, and you do good work. Thank you so much, Julie, and thank you for your staff and everybody for the good work that you do. And put your hands together one more time for this, folks. Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You want to take a picture? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Have a good day. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, and again, this is great to have these proclamations for all the good volunteer work that our folks do here in Oxnard. Our next item is items on the agenda, and we have 3 minutes for speakers, and I'm going to start off with the list that the clerk gave me, and Ronald spoke already, right? So we're good with him. Oh, Ronald, have another item? Oh, I'm sorry, come right up.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Zaragoza, City Council, and staff. My name is Ronald Arwejo, and I'm speaking to you as the chair of the East Village neighborhood. I just wanted to use this time to thank so many of the city staff that were indispensable to ensure that the voters of Oxnard were able to hear from their local candidates on the issues of importance to them. Ms. Samantha Shapiro assisted me with the preparation of the East Village's September 18 candidate meetup, where 17 of the 22 candidates on our neighborhood's ballot were able to speak to our largest neighborhood meeting ever. For the INCO Candidates Forum on September 30, October 2, and October 9, the city's first over 3 nights and approximately 8 hours of questions and answers on 7 positions, I want to thank the city manager's office in general, the INCO Executive Board for approving these candidate forums, Mr. Adam Smith with Forum Logistics, Ms. Martha Guillen for serving as the secretary and timekeeper on the 3rd night, the INCO for hosting, the translators for everyone's remarks into Spanish, Professor Tim Allison for serving as the moderator for the United Water Conservation Districts Forum, and the City of Oxnard for the use of their council chambers. I also wanted to give the public a brief preview of how the questions were gathered and to hold the city and the INCO harmless from any of the criticisms floating around on social media. About half the questions came from some form of the submissions that are received prior to the forums, and then the other half is a combination of previous questions that I have posed in the past and from published news in the past 3 years. As a previous moderator, the rules have been modified mostly by recommendations from former candidates and the public. as a previous candidate, the format of the questions have been structured so that candidates have enough information to answer the question, but is flexible enough that gives them more leeway than what one might be used to seeing in a news interview. It has come up that one of my questions was incorrectly worded in that it treated the city manager as a sole hire of the city council, but it should have also included the city attorney. My apologies in that question to all, as I accidentally conflated my past experience working in a city in which the attorney was hired by the city manager when drafting that question. Thank you all for your support of the voters' desire to hear from their candidates, and I hope the city and the INCO does this again in the next election cycle. In my time remaining, I'd also like to inform the public that the River Park neighborhood will be having a debate on the CFD 5 measures tomorrow, October 16, at 6 p.m. at the Rio Vista Middle School Multipurpose Room, 3050 Thames River Drive, with, yes, you guessed it, myself as the moderator. Thank you very much.
And Ronald, thank you for your volunteering work, and you did a good job. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is J. Grant Kennedy.
Mayor Zaragoza, Grant Kennedy already spoke previously during appointment items.
Okay, thank you. All righty, I'll put this here then. And then our next speaker is Pat Brown. Pat Brown, followed by Steve Nash.
My comments are related to the first topic this evening, and I have been waiting and waiting very patiently to find out what we're going to do about the Halaco problem, and noticing that there were no comments, no letters, no phone calls, no cards with a note that a meeting is coming up, nothing. It just gets, you get a meeting with these people and they go overboard with telling you all the stuff that's going to have to be done. And then you don't hear from them for 6, 8 months or a year. Only when you make a contact with them and say, hey, what in the heck is going on here? We haven't heard from you. And this goes on year after year after year. And it's ridiculous. I found out about 15 years ago that my folks had some articles that were written in their local newspaper. This is up in southwestern Idaho, where it's just farming, most of it. And they had saved these articles for me that they had gotten in their weekly newspaper about Halaco and the problems that they have had, and how Halaco just walked away and said, see you later, and never came back. And they were concerned about what they were putting in the soil, because they were drilling holes and pouring stuff down. Now, this is in an area that's all agricultural, okay? Stuff that we eat, other people eat. And I just, to me, I'm 83 years old, and I'm and a half. And I'm not going to die someday. Doctors say, who knows, could be 10, 15 years from now, could be 100. I don't want to live without this taken care of, but I want to live. And this is ridiculous, totally ridiculous. Apparently, this outfit, Halaco, has these places all over the United States, and they just go and tear up soil, whatever they like, when they think that nobody will pay any attention to them. And this is not right. And what about the future? What about the children of the future parents that aren't even grown up yet? What about them? And when they find out what all this was all about, they're going to be really pissed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Nash, followed by Marisa Martinez. Steve Nash.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, city manager, and staff. My name is Steve Nash, and I'm running for the Division 4 United Water Conservation District Board of Directors. I think it's fair to ask, why am I running? And the reason is, and it's a $1 million question literally, is Oxnard getting equitable, transparent, and fair treatment in the rate it pays United for its water? You know, I've had both the city manager and the director of public works express doubts. So if I get elected, I will absolutely demand, with my one vote, that we get a cost of service study that is comprehensible and robust and explains how the rates are apportioned between municipal and industrial and agriculture. Until that happens, we won't know. And if I can save the ratepayers of Oxnard literally millions of dollars a year, I'll jump at the chance. And I also want to say how honored and really deeply humbled I am to have received the endorsements of the mayor and council members Tehran, Madrigal, Basua, Perillo, Valenzuela, and also our county supervisor, Vianney Lopez. And I would not have received these endorsements if they didn't have faith, number one, in my ability to do the job, and two, in my unwavering commitment to protect the interest of the residents of Oxnard. So the election is 3 weeks away. I humbly ask for your vote on November 5th, and have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Marissa Martinez, followed by Reverend Greg Ryan. Martinez, there we go.
Oops. Good evening, Mayor and members of the board.
Roll it down. Thank you. Thank you. We can,
First of all, I'm here on behalf of my son, David Martinez, and he's homeless. And due to the murder of my son, Vincent Martinez, which was murdered in front of my house on March 11, 2005, my son was giving him CPR. After that, it resulted that he turned schizoaffective, and he turned to drugs. And he is now homeless. I don't know where he's at. He is with the program of behavioral health, and the County of Ventura on behavioral health has not contacted me, which he gave permission for me to be, for them to let me know. And I'm very, very disappointed due to the fact that I feel I've done my research about Laura's Law, which Laura, I'm sure, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Laura's Law, but my son needs to be in that program. He is not in that program. My son needs a ride to go to get his medications. He was taken to CRT, which is the County of Ventura, and he was denied because he was dirty, supposedly last week. He was fine. The worker left him there. Me and my friend had to go pick him up because he was just abandoned there because they wouldn't accept him because he was dirty from last week. Well, this is what tends to happen with people that want to recover. They might be dirty, but if they were dirty a week ago, that means they're trying. At what point? I went to Lucy Cartanega, which I'm sure you're familiar with, the homeless. I attended there. I hardly didn't see anybody. There's so many people always complaining about the homeless, but yet no one does anything. I was there. And I want to be part of the homeless committee. That would be my pleasure to do, because I am a mother of a son that's addicted to drugs and also homeless. So I just really believe that this is this he needs this program. I've contacted Vianney Lopez. I've never gotten a return call back, only from her assistant. She does not want to see me. I'm a former county employee, and this really makes me sad. And I think everybody here probably knows somebody that's homeless or on drugs. I know I'm not alone, and I need help.
Mrs. Martinez, have you contacted Behavioral Health Department, the Behavioral Health Department?
Yes, I have,
You have?
all the time.
Keep calling them. I'm sure that Supervisor Lopez will talk to you.
Who?
Supervisor Lopez. I'm sure
Okay,
she-
I really hope so. You don't know how many message and text messages I've left them.
Thank you.
Her aide is named Angel Garcia. I'll give you her phone number if you want it. I don't have it right now, but I'll give you her phone number.
I have the number too, if you like.
I can't give it to you right now, but I will get it to you.
I have the number.
Okay.
805-654-2613.
805
654-2613.
26
2460.
24. I'm sorry, I had a stroke, so I kind of have like memory issues.
We're not supposed to share too much right now, but there's a
Yes.
number.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Reverend Greg Runyon.
Good evening, council and mayor. I'm smiling because I just put on there Greg Runyon, and Mayor Saragosa always reminds me that I'm a reverend. I guess I may have said a few things I shouldn't up here, so he always reminds me that I have a higher calling. I realize that, how many more meetings are you going to be sitting in as mayor, leading the?
I'm not counting, but I think it's about 5.
About 5. So
5 or 6.
not the days.
It depends on what the city manager says, because he told me the other day maybe about 5 or 6.
Okay. It depends, right? It has been a joy to have come here from Fresno and just to see you, the way you have operated as a councilman, as a supervisor, and a mayor, and appreciate you, your love for your community. I am coming today to express my hope that Oxnard will seriously consider, and I endorse Councilman McDonald. I realize there are good candidates out there, but I can tell you from personal experience, Brian is a person that he will tell you what he thinks, he will tell you where he stands, and he will do it in a compassionate and caring way. I shared with him that I was pleasantly surprised at the response he had when we talked about Prop 36 and just things that go that he may have a position, but he will not try to force his position on you. He will not try to dominate you. And that's what good leadership does. Leadership listens to all sides. Certainly, he has his core values that I would share. He wants to have a safe community that like all people do. He wants to have a thriving community where all people, their voices are heard. And I think that it's important. And one of the reasons I'm speaking, I read through the Star as they were presenting candidates. And I think they must have said 6 or 7 times, pointing out the fact that he's a Republican in a nonpartisan race. Who cares what party he's in? I care what his values are. I care what he believes. Don't go look at what Donald Trump believes or what Kamala Harris believes and then decide that's what he believes or that's what a Democrat believes. Listen to what he has to say. Listen to who the man is. And I guarantee you that he will do what he believes is right. And if you ever have a question and if you ever have a need, he's someone that you can call and that he will answer your call and he will try to resolve your problem. So I strongly hope that you will vote for Brian McDonald for mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. Okay. Any additional speakers, Madam Clerk?
Mayor Zaragoza, there's no additional speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Okay, so then we'll continue with the item H in this city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So for this meeting, we have 2 items. One is a very important update, and then 2 will be a very, well, some would say important, I'll just say fun set of visitors. So first, I want to invite Mr. Jeff Pengilly. He's the Director of our Community Development Department to give just a brief update on how we are doing with regarding permits and so on, and then I'll have a follow-up comments when he's finished before we invite our other special guests. Thank you. Jeff, all yours.
Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. I think we have a slide presentation, very brief.
There you go.
Wanted to talk about some of the progress we've made, and I know there's a lot we could say here, a lot of different metrics we use, so I've put a few of them up here, and I'll go as quickly as I can. This shows our workload in the last few fiscal years has been fairly consistent, increasing slightly over the last few years. We issue about 6,000 permits is what we're projecting this year. It's a little early in the year to really nail that down, but that's what we're projecting. Along with that will come 22 to 25,000 building inspections as well. We're not perfect. We have room to improve. We're very much aware of our metrics, how our timelines impact businesses and the residents. I've been with the city 24 years. There's not a day I've come to work where I wasn't aware when we were not meeting our goals, and we will never get there. We'll constantly be improving. I do want to say at the outset as well, from fiscal years 21, but mostly 22 to 25, we have received a very generous infusion of budget resources from council, and that's very much appreciated. Our budget has increased during that time frame about $6 million, from $9.9 million to $15.9 million. We've increased from 63 to 70 positions. The majority, if not all of those, are in building engineering and planning, where the workload was the heaviest and still is. And we've increased using those resources, not just our staffing, but we've increased our consulting budget by over 300% to help get progress in the workload. Next slide. Oh, do I have it? Sorry. So one of the many metrics we use to look at our workload is how many projects are quote unquote on the shelf. One of our low points was in 2022. At one point earlier that year, we were down through to staff vacancies to one plan check engineer. We're back up to 4, one of those being a new senior engineer position that was added last year. So at that time frame, we had our budget support in hand, contracts and consultants ready to go, and we made a huge push towards getting the backlog pushed down. We did that fairly quickly within a year. You can see in September of 2022, we're at 469 projects waiting on the shelf for service. Now we are at 249. September of 24, we're at 210. That number fluctuates up and down. We like to stay between 175 and 275. That gives us a manageable workload that we can handle in a given month.
Okay.
Also on the right side in the red hues, you'll see that another metric we use, projects that have been waiting more than 30 days for plan check. Regardless of how many we have, if they're waiting too long, that's a problem for us. Again, our marker was September of 22. We had 205 projects waiting more than 30 days for their plans to be reviewed. September of 24, we were at 31. We've increased a little bit to 81 due to some staffing vacancies. That's being resolved. By next week, that'll be down by 8 or 10, and we're going to keep that number between 30 and 40. Some other metrics, at certain points in time, on average, accessory dwelling units have been a new workload that has come into play in the last 3 to 4 years, exponentially increasing each year. At most of this year, we've been at 50 to 60% of the projects in plan check are ADUs. As of today, we're down a little bit. It's only about 35%, but historically, we're around 50% of the workload. The number of projects, not the workload, are ADUs. So there's been a huge reaction from the community, the design community, and homeowners pushing that housing forward. So we are responding, and I'll talk in a minute at the end about what we're doing to help that. Vacancies have improved. We have 7 currently, not including 4 new positions that were added in this budget. We have 2 to 3 offers going out within the next 30 days, so we are in a much better position there. Just a matter of fact, we are completing about 60 to 80 project reviews per week. 30 to 40% of that is from our plan check consultants. So we're still doing a lot of work in-house, but we do lean on our consultants, especially for the larger, more time-consuming projects. And as I said before, our number of projects on the shelf, somewhere between 175 and 275 is our comfort zone. With our consultants and our staff, that's about what we can do in 1 month's time so that plans aren't dragging on for longer time plan check cycles. Moving on to potential solutions for residents that have been explored and things that they can do to programs they can use to expedite their projects through the system. In 2020, Oxnard voters approved Measure F, known as the Oxnard Permit Simplicity Act. This is promoted by Aaron Starr. It was implemented in 2021. We implemented it verbatim. We did not drag our feet or hold back or stall it out in any way. Our first training application session was September 2021. And you can see over time, there's been 6 sessions, there's been various levels of interest. We've had 0 people follow through and use the program. So I'll let those numbers speak for themselves. I've been with the city 24 years. Before I was here, for over 25 years, we've had a very popular program for commercial and industrial businesses. Businesses that need to expand, relocate, add equipment, small additions, whatever businesses, commercial or industrial, need to do, we've always been responsive to that. We have an appointment every week where it's a permit in 1 hour program, really, and we've been doing that for over 25 years. Within that hour time frame, you'll get all your plan check comments and a live feedback from all the plan reviewers, and you'll have either a permit or your plan check corrections explained to you during that time frame. It's been very popular. And to respond to the ADU influx as well, we are in beta test right now for a residential version of that, where we will meet with people in a 1 hour meeting, review as many projects as we can of a residential nature, something we've never done before. It's thus far become very successful. We'll launch that formally on January 1st. Those are the metrics and numbers I wanted to update you on. Thank you. I'm here for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Jeff. You want to continue?
Yes.
Thank you,
Jeff, thank you very much. Yeah, we're not going to have a back and forth. I do want to, before we invite in our special guest, I want to follow up on this by responding to one of the public comments earlier that unfortunately came in during the gun violence restraining order item, but it was really addressing this. And so as you recall, just not too long ago, we had an attorney call in, interestingly enough, thanking Jeff, while all along he's been complaining to Jeff about a client, claiming that we've been delaying their permits. But, so I just want to clarify this, because I know we live in an information make-believe world now where people can just make things up, and there are no consequences and certainly no accountability. So that particular project, their plan check was returned to us without responding to any of the comments, and therefore it was rejected. So that caused a delay of their project. But more importantly, it all came about because our fire department had to red tag this property, and Edison had to yank the energy service because they had illegal construction and were using it illegally as well. So as one of our council members loves to say, facts and evidence matter, and I sure wish they still do matter. But I just want to be clear, we know we have a lot of work to do. We're working towards it. We're making terrific progress with the kind of staffing challenges that we have, and none of that is unique to Oxnard. But at some point, we've got to get out of this make-believe, informational make-believe world and just discuss and debate the facts as they are. Thank you.
Case, is that it, Mr. City Manager?
No, now part two is
Okay.
the the fun visit that we're having. I think they are named Jack and Sally, and I'm told they come from The Nightmare Before Christmas. So they're going to make a quick visit.
Yeah. Uh-oh, Matt.
There you
boy.
go. If you could turn on there you go. Thank you.
Oh, my goodness.
All right. Well, thank you, folks. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. My name is Matt O'Neill. I'm a recreation supervisor. I oversee our City Corps program, but I'm here for a particularly spooky reason this evening. I wanted to let you all know that for the 4th year in a row, Jack has swiped the keys and has taken over our float. So beginning Tuesday, October 22nd through October 30th, the Haunted Float will be seen touring the city of Oxnard. The schedule is available at oxnardrec.org and all the Oxnard Rec social media accounts. And it's at symbol Santa Float on X, formerly known as Twitter. So you can check out our daily posts with a glimpse of the link, or I'm sorry, the glimpse link, which is how you can follow the float on our social media and for a live tracking of the float tour. So get ready to meet Jack and Sally also at our 3rd annual Fall Fest. And that is this Saturday, October 19th at Plaza Park. They'll be bringing the float for an up close and personal experience from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So don't miss out on this fantastic opportunity to snap some photos with our special guests. And whether you're a fan of the float, Jack, Sally, or simply looking for a ghoulish time, this event is perfect for everyone. So make sure to mark your calendars, gather your friends, family, and join us for a spooktacular day at Plaza Park. I also wanted to mention that we are having an event at the South Oxnard Library, our Haunted Library event, and that's October 25th and 26th.
What time?
The Haunted Library is from 5:30 to 8 p.m. at the South Oxnard branch.
So Matt, you really, since this is really a surprise for me, a surprise for the city council, but because the election's 3 weeks away, Jack says I better vote for him. Jack, you want to say anything?
Come one, come all. Fall Fest, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday. Please, we're excited to see you all there.
Thank you so much. And the floats are going to start when again?
The float tours start October 22nd, but you can find the floats at the Plaza Park event this Saturday as well, at the Fall Festival.
And what time again for the kids and the families? What time?
10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Thank you so much. Put your hands together. Thank you so much. Look at this beautiful young lady. You don't want to share anything? This is for all the council members. They're going to bring candy for all the kids. It includes Perello and Mayor Pro Tem. 2 bags. Don't believe this. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Well, pass it, Mommy. On the way. And Jack, you go this way. Thank you so much. Put your hands together again for those folks. Really, really, thank you so much. Another pleasant surprise. Thank you. Thank you. Mm-hmm. This might change. This one. Okay. Well, Mr. City Manager, any other surprises?
No, but I just want to say when Jack and Sally were standing up there next to all of you, it kind of looked normal.
Oh my God. Okay, 2 words from Perello.
Yes, thank you very much for this, but I would like to address the comments and information that Mr. Pengelly gave us. I don't know how many of you here or watching this or going to watch it in the past listen to the candidate forums. There have been multiple candidate forums, And I cannot speak for what's in the minds or hearts of the individuals running for Oxnard's elected positions. But Mr. Pengelly's department takes hits, in my opinion, from everybody that gets up there, and they continually hammer the city of Oxnard that we're not doing anything. I hope that those candidates, some of them listening, I hope, watch that, because the information that is spouted in the public domain with social media is inaccurate. You can call it a lie, but that needs to be shared with the public. And I can tell you of one instance that I know in River Park, a tremendously large development was going on, and it stalled for a long, long time, tremendous long time. It turned out that individual had some real problems with his development, and he had to fix them. And he was raising Cain with the city of Oxnard. The job of the public sector that is taking care of the protection for the city of Oxnard, health, safety, and welfare. You don't want to put up something brand new that's going to fall down on somebody's head. I hope the people that live in the city of Oxnard listen to some of the stuff that is put up. I want to compliment the city manager. I didn't know this was coming up. This is overdue. This type of stuff is overdue. When something goes wrong, we got to call it out. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And really, in the last 4 years that I've been with the city, Jeff's done a really good job, and I know that. Thank you, Jeff, for the good work. Our next item is item I. This is the report from our council members for any brief information you'd like to share at this time. And also, if you have any items to place in the future agendas, we can do so now. And it's 3 minutes for a speaker. We'll start off with the council member Turan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple quick updates here. First off, I was able to attend the Carriage Square Neighborhood Council meeting that was held last week. They had a great turnout, as usual. They filled the cafeteria of the Curran School, and so it was just great to see that type of turnout. As Mr. Arwejo had mentioned, River Park Neighborhood Council will be meeting tomorrow, the 16th, for their regular neighborhood council meeting. On the agenda and the bulk of the evening's program for that night will be what's on the agenda as a debate regarding measures I, J, K, and L. And so I appreciate Mr. Arwejo agreeing to be the moderator for that evening, and he did a great job, I believe, in the INCO candidate forum, so looking forward to that tomorrow. And just so the public knows, it's tomorrow, 6 p.m. at Rio Vista Middle School. And Councilmember Perello might have more details on this as well, but in general, South Bank Neighborhood Council will be meeting next Thursday, the 23rd, at Rio del Norte School at 6:30 p.m. And I do want to take a moment to make a couple points here. I want to thank the INCO Executive Board, and Mr. Arwejo specifically for their work in hosting the candidates forums for all of the candidates, including spaces for City Clerk, City Treasurer, and the United Water candidates, in addition to City Council candidates and mayoral candidates. As someone who's planned that in the past, prior to being on council, it is a lot of work that I don't think the general public gets to see. They see the outcome of that, and they see the implementation of that, but the amount of coordination and planning and working with multiple people and multiple personalities, there's a lot that happens before you get to see the evening's programming. So really commendation to the folks who helped plan that, including Mr. Arwejo, who helped plan it, but also moderated it himself. And I'll just say that if you think you can improve it in any way, if you have complaints about the way it was held or the questions that were asked, I can't think of a single neighborhood council that's not looking for new members to join them from the neighborhoods. So if you're an Oxnard resident, please consider joining the neighborhood council, maybe even consider running for an executive board position, and then volunteering to help with the next round of candidate forums that happen in the coming elections. They're not closed to new ideas, and if you had ideas this time about the way it should be done, that's probably an open invitation to Oxnard residents to do. This isn't a response to what Mr. Pengelly brought forward. Coincidentally, I had this in my notes anyways, but I appreciate the info we had tonight. I'll just say for Measure F, I've been actually following that, and I appreciated seeing the table that we had, because I have a similar table of all of the interest and applicants who've had that, and my numbers very much match what was presented tonight. And I will just say that Measure F as a boondoggle, I'll just say that word, even though Mr. Starr himself has asked people and promoted himself and said, hey, word of mouth, if you know someone who would join this program, do it. He himself has promoted it in addition to what the city's done to promote it, and we still end up with zero follow-through from professionals who would be eligible to have that program. And I think those numbers speak for themselves, as was mentioned. And so it may be called Measure F, but with zero takers, might as well call it Measure L. My opinion, my words. So, all right, last thing here. I want to thank again all the folks who came out for the special meeting we had last week, our special city council meeting highlighting the UCLA study on the challenges facing the young people in the city of Oxnard. And I want to thank the many community members, community leaders, folks who were here in the audience and spoke and received the information. And I had mentioned it last week that I am committing, and I hope that they will continue to commit to working together collaboratively as a city, as a county, as public entities, as private entities, as community-based organizations to work toward bettering the opportunities for our young people in the city of Oxnard. And we saw a lot of things that I think a lot of us suspected and knew, but now it's confirmed by a reputable university who worked collaboratively with other local universities to get this information here. And I appreciate the many Oxnard student researchers who are directly involved in that work. But lastly, one thing I want to share is that I want to take this moment to follow up and recognize our recreation staff who were here that evening and who would likely be some key players, key staff in moving forward with the next efforts we have in that study and what happens to actually make it tangible, what was presented to us and what we're going to do to try and improve things for Oxnard's young people. And we have recreation staff. They're doing the work now that we talked about that evening. They are building resiliency and building up young people in the city of Oxnard and priming them to do the amazing work that has to happen to move this community forward. And we have rec staff who've gone on to become educators, clinicians, doctors, professional athletes, professional musicians, professional artists, business owners, community-based service providers, public works professionals, attorneys, even the city attorney's office. And even better, we have many who've gone on to become mid and high-level leaders within our recreation programming itself. So they went through the program, they became junior staff, worked their way up the ranks, are now decision makers within the work that happens. And so much of the work that we have to do will land on multiple departments, multiple agencies' plates, but a lot of it will be on recreation's plate. And recreation's proven that they can make $1 look like 10. And I will always commend them for that and recognize their efforts. If we're supposed to be doing what works, recreation's proven that it works. We need to continue doing that, continue supporting them and investing in young people. And so I just want to thank them all for the work that they do currently, the work they've done in the past, and the work they continue to do. So those are my comments. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Andrade? None? Councilor Madrigal?
Thank you very much. Again, reiterating what Councilmember Taran said. It was great last week for our special council meeting. It was, something that hopefully we can move forward with and involve the entire community for a common cause, a good cause, which is our youth. And hopefully, the next generation will be a whole lot better than this generation, and hopefully keep that moving in a positive light here for the city of Oxnard. Second, again, a thank you to Mr. Arrejo for the wonderful forums and, getting out information to our residents with the forums. And most importantly, just the next part is please make sure everyone goes out and vote. Whichever way you vote, that's your opinion, but please go out and exercise that right and go out and vote by Election Day. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Wasua? No? Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I will just follow up on the comments about the recreation float for upcoming Halloween and tell you that my neighborhood between Christmas and Halloween, we like to decorate a lot. We invite people to come to our neighborhood. And I'm hoping that if you do decide to come to the neighborhood, that you're awful cautious, because we will experience between 800 and 1,000 trick-or-treaters in our neighborhood. They tend to run across the street, so everyone's welcome, but please be careful on Halloween night that no one gets hurt or injured or anything else. And if we have any extra candy, you're welcome to come by and grab some of it. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Perrello?
Thank you. I'd like to thank the people that spoke, and especially some apparently who have called in, who have texted that they didn't get called when they called in. I'll start off just on my notes. We had a speaker speak very passionately about something with the county and behavioral health. I hope that we can find, some staff member can find out, right or wrong, the issue there. But I do know that the Ventura County Environmental Health Department, responsible for the food situation and the food trucks and the various sidewalk food distributors, they're supposed to take care of it. The city of Oxnard takes the beating on that. And one last, which I did have the district attorney call me personally and complain that I had mentioned him. I'm still waiting for an update with respect to the apartments in the south end of town with a landlord that is apparently somehow forcing people out of that apartment. The city of Oxnard has done everything they can, but my understanding it's in the lap of the district attorney's office. I have all the utmost respect for the district attorney's office, but these are some things that, again, tonight, another issue was brought up where the county maybe can help, and it was mentioned, Councilmember Vianney Lopez. I know that her aide, Mr. Robert O'Reilly, no longer works with her, and I'm hoping that Angel Garcia can pick up the ball on this. I'd like to comment on Indigenous Day coming up, having passed, but also the Columbus Day, which used to be recognized. Hats off to all of them. I want to thank very much Reverend Greg Runyon for his comments. I've recently attended the Clean Power Alliance meeting and brought attention to Kathleen Mallory, an employee of the city of Oxnard, and the city staff. Hopefully they will bring attention to the public how possibly the residents of the city can benefit from some of the things that Clean Power has opportunities for communities to benefit. Also attended BICEP board meeting and want to say that I did attend with Councilman Turan the Carriage Square event. Very well done. Attended the grand opening for the mayor, and I appreciate the opportunity to stand in his place for the HMG called the Hernandez Medical Group, a new clinic opening up on Ventura Road. Very impressive. The gentleman, I hope someday maybe we have him come in and he tells you his personal life story. Involves being a kid, 15 years old. The grandpa asked him what he wanted to do. Somehow he got hooked up with family members in Mexico, went to the medical school at Guadalajara, went through the school and was sent to spend time with the Yaqui Indians for an extended period of time, and has come back here and is a very successful owner of some clinics. I do want to thank the INCO for operating the candidate forums. The big group in that is the League of Women Voters, and the League of Women Voters didn't have time to include all of the other candidates, treasurer, clerk, United Water Conservation District. The INCO did a tremendous job over multiple nights, impressive. I appreciate the chair the moderator coming up and addressing some of the concerns, but the organization, the Inter-Neighborhood Council organizations, there's an opportunity, as one member of the council has said, for people to get involved in local issues. The Filipino community that came up tonight, it's been mentioned in the past. The Filipino community, members of the Philippine community, in my opinion, are underserved when their names are identified as Hispanic when it comes to census. There's got to be something straightened out. The second thing is, just as a point of information for the public, if you go to the city of Morro Bay, there's a plaque representing that in October 18th of 1587, Filipinos landed at Morro Bay. And I believe that's everything I've got, but I do appreciate and do thank Mr. Nash, who's running for United Water Conservation District, for taking the time from his campaign schedule to address this body.
Thank you. Councilor Valenzuela.
Yes, first I'll start off my comments with Go Dodgers. National League champions are taking place, so hopefully best of luck to them. I will state that last Monday I joined Senator Limon's Tea Con Limon event, where I saw some of the work that Assemblymember Bennett, Congress member Salud Carbajal, and Senator Limon has shared and the work they've done this past year. And yeah, those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to thank all the speakers that spoke before, and I'm not going to reiterate what the council member said because I just want to thank him for all the work they do for the community. So our next item is item I. This is
Mayor, if I can interrupt on this one, I'd like to correct an error that appears on the agenda. Incorrectly references the Community Services, Public Safety, Housing, and Development Committee instead of the City Council as the legislative body considering this item. The agenda description should read that the City Council consider whether to place on a future, consider a resolution requested by Councilmember Valenzuela in support of nurses and healthcare workers with SEIU 121 RN and SEIU UHW to address the outsourcing of critical jobs at Dignity Health's St. John's Regional Medical Center. Despite this error, the agenda description substantially complies with the Brown Act in that it provides sufficient information for the public to understand which legislative body is meeting tonight and clear and adequate information about the item to be discussed. Since the item description substantially complies with the Brown Act, I recommend we move forward with tonight's discussion despite the error.
Yeah, but thank you for that correction. And I'll read the subject here is resolution regarding the job outsourcing at Dignity Health St. John's Medical Center. Recommendation of the Community Service, Public Works, Safety, Housing, and Development Committee consider whether to place on the future council agenda a resolution requested by the council member Valenzuela in support of the nurse and healthcare workers with SEIU 121RN and also SEIU EHW to address the outsourcing critical jobs at Dignity St. John's Hospital Medical Center. The Community Service, Public Service, Housing, and Development Committee approved the item 2-1 on September 24, 2024. And of course, there was a Measure M presentation recording on this item. So we have some speakers. I'm not sure, Councilman Valenzuela, would like to share some information before you call the speakers or wait for the speakers.
Public speakers can go first.
Okay. And I have quite a few here, and I'm going to start off with what the clerk gave me initially, and this would be Audra Strickland. Is Audra Strickland?
Okay, coming for you.
Audra Strickland, can you please press *6 to unmute, please? And then you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Zaragoza and members of the council. My name is Audra Strickland, and I come to you on behalf of the Hospital Association of Southern California and the 180 hospitals that we represent across the Southland and Ventura County. The introduction of remote cardiac monitoring at St. John's Medical Center has raised concerns among some about the efficacy of these services, as well as concerns for job loss. Remote monitoring at St. John's began in June, and since then, there has been an improvement in patient care, and there have been no patient safety issues. Additionally, remote heart monitoring helps hospitals identify and respond to cardiac events more quickly and with improved patient outcomes. Hospitals are only as good as the people we serve and work with, and St. John's cares about its employees. St. John's has diligently worked to reassign workers displaced by the remote monitoring. 2 employees chose to retire, and St. John's provided them with a severance package. This is not an economic decision. This is an improvement in patient care. And please rest assured that St. John's top priority is the care and safety of its patients. It is its mission and commitment to this community. St. John's doctors and staff who made these decisions come from this community and make these decisions with patient care as a priority. These decisions, including those about staffing, are about caring for our patients who work to provide state-of-the-art, responsive, and safe care. Our hospitals like St. John's need our support as they care for us and our families during the happiest or scariest and sometimes the saddest times of our lives. I would urge you not to support the resolution before you, but instead to show your support for the hospital in your community that is committed to bringing the latest technology and innovations in patient care to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mary Temple, followed by S.B. Velasco. Mary Temple.
Good evening. My name's Mary Temple. I've been a nurse for, it'll be 35 years in January, and I am a nurse at St. John's. My father, who's 88 years young, he'll tell you he's 58, and I have been following these meetings over the course of the summer. And so imagine, I'm sorry, it's a repeat for the three people that did the resolution to get it on today. But imagine my horror when my father, who usually lives in Santa Barbara but was living with me because of a health crisis, ending up at St. John's by ambulance 3 times this summer and needed telemetry, because I had heard the stories from my friends that are nurses on the telemetry floors, and I had been attending the meetings and knew what was happening there. My dad, I asked him for him to be on DOU because I knew that the techs were still on the unit and would be personally monitoring. My dad was having not only blood pressure issues, pulse issues, but he was also having breathing issues. And as you can notice, he's still on oxygen today, which I hope is a short-lived thing. Because I knew what to ask for, and I had connections. I knew what to do when I was told he wasn't a candidate for DOU and was going to be going to the telemetry unit. I knew to ask to have a 24-hour monitor in the room with my dad, because I knew from monitoring him with my little dinky thing I got it off of Amazon that he changed on his dime on his oxygen levels. If I hadn't known to do that, he wouldn't have been monitored in the way he needed to be. Unfortunately, I was the only nurse in the building that was consistently monitoring my dad because of the reassignment of the telemetry monitors, and because Dignity is too cheap to pay for the package that is includes O2 sat monitoring that tells how many blood cells have oxygen connected to them, and which is crucial for your obstructive sleep apnea, your post-surgery, your pain patients, your asthmatics, and your people like my dad that are having respiratory crises. Nobody was monitoring those because the nurses and the techs are often short-staffed, especially on the weekend, and that was from my stories from the staff that works there, and also from my personal observation. So I was the only one that was seeing my dad's oxygen saturation going up and down. If the telemetry monitors that are very trained and specialized were still there, they would have been monitoring.
Thank you, Mary.
And I just want to say really quick, think what you would do if it was your family member or you that was the hospital.
Thank you. Thank you. S.B. Velasco, followed by Megan Martinez.
Good evening. I wanted to speak to Brian McDonald, our Mayor Pro Tem. When we met with you a few weeks ago, you were talking about that they got rid of they did get rid of some of our monitor techs. Well, just this past week, I had to have our union rep file a cease and desist because the hospital went behind our backs and brought in traveler monitor techs. Why did they get rid of ours? And they're paying probably triple for these traveling monitor techs. So we put a cease and desist. They are no longer there. Second, to the lady from the association, medical association, hospital association, she's not there. She is actually not there working in the field. Her boots are not on the ground. I invite her to come so she can see what danger these patients are in. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Megan Martinez, followed by Jose Barrera.
Hi, my name is Megan Martinez. I've been a nurse for 10 years, actually this month, and I work on the telemetry floor. I worked whenever we did have the monitor techs, and now whenever we have the outsourcing. Hospital spokesperson Christina Zicklin stated that the new technology reduces the amount of false alarms and provides a clear picture of what is happening with the patient's cardiac rhythm. But in fact, this is the exact opposite. The technology that they established in the outsourcing of the monitor techs has increased false alarms and alarm fatigues. Our monitor techs that were in-house were able to tell the difference between artifact, when the patient's simply moving around, and VTAC, which is a lethal rhythm. We constantly get these false alarms of VTAC, that our patient could be possibly dying. We run in there and they're simply brushing their teeth. Talk about alarm fatigue when this happens dozens of times throughout the night, whenever you have 4 other patients that you have to take care of. On the opposite side, there's been multiple instances of the central monitoring unit having technical issues, and the AI part of it has been down. The monitor techs in Arizona are watching up to 47 patients at a time. That's a 51% increase from what our in-house monitor techs were watching. Without the AI assistance, Arizona can and has missed critical rhythm changes. In a recent example, a patient had a 6-second pause and the heart rate dropped to the 20s. The CMU did not notify anyone during this moment. The unit clerk happened to be next to the monitors and notified the nurse. Had the nurse not been notified, she would have given these certain medications that actually affect the heart rate directly and sent the patient home. The patient could have passed out, or her heart could have stopped altogether. If the unit clerk, that is not our monitor tech, was not there at that moment, this patient outcome could have been very different. The thing is that these people that made these decisions are not the people that are taking care of our family, taking care of you, possibly. They are not the ones at the bedside. We're caring for your family, for our community, and all we want is the safety of them to be the priority, not the profit be the priority. And that's all we want you to think about whenever you're thinking about this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jose Barrera, followed by David Aguilar.
Good evening, members of the City Council, Mayor Zaragoza, Mayor Pro Tem McDonald. My name is Jose Barrera. I'm a political organizer for SEIU UHW, a union that represents over 100,000 healthcare workers across the state of California. With me, behind me, I have several hospital workers, nurses, healthcare workers. Our healthcare professionals are here because they're gravely concerned. As we've heard from the representative of the Southern California Hospital Association, the Honorable former Assembly Member Audra Strickland, we raised some concerns here because our healthcare workers are on the ground and understand that there is life-saving care that we're providing. But when we outsource jobs, and I'll tell you, this is just the beginning. When we outsource jobs, more jobs are going to be outsourced. And we want to make sure that we put a stop to it right now because our community, the community in the city of Oxnard and the city of Camarillo depend on these life-saving care treatments and these monitor techs. We want to ensure and ask the City Council to respectfully support this resolution for the following reasons. We care about our community. And let me just nail that one more time. We care about our community. We want to make sure that if any one of us is in the hospital, that we are being taken care of by someone who's on the ground and not someone that is over 500 miles away in Arizona somewhere in a room, that if something goes wrong, they're not going to be able to flag for us. Lastly, I thank Councilmember Valenzuela, Mayor Pro Tem McDonald for walking us through this process and helping us bring this resolution forward. It will be up to all of you to vote and decide where you're going to take this, but I'd like to leave with one last word. Mayor John Zaragoza, thank you so much for your unequivocal support for the city of Oxnard over the last couple of years. This might be the last time I get to speak while you're the mayor, but I really appreciate everything you've done for us throughout the years. Thank you.
Thank you. No clapping, please. Thank you. David Aguilar, followed by Maria Dalton.
Hello, my name is David Aguilar. I work at St. John's Hospital. I've been there for 21 years. I've also had 35 years of experience in the medical field from being a corpsman with the Marines. I want to let you know that anytime you have anything done for yourselves in any capacity, you need a professional. You need a professional who knows how to take care of things. You're not going to hire somebody, especially with your health, somebody that's far away in technology and that you think that's going to be better than an actual human being bedside and right in the hospital. That's just not the smartest way to take care of a person's life. Death is the possibility. That's the key here. Death is the possibility of a person's life being saved because I have somebody that's in the hospital, not 400 miles away in another state. All these people here work in this field to help people, to take care of them. They're not doing it for money. They're not doing it for anything else but to take care of people. St. John's has taken the opportunity to take this to cut costs. It's not about anything else. The technology of whatever this person had spoken about earlier, technology is always not the best way to do things. We have all these electric cars and things that happen to them when they're, they catch fire or things happen. They're not, perfect. You're not going to have the same capability of taking care of a human life when you're right there bedside, when you're right in the same building. These are the type of things that you need to think about, not only, like I said, they've mentioned, not only for yourselves, but for the community in Oxnard. We all live here. We're all part of this community. We don't want to send anybody to these facilities to make them think, hey, I might not be taken care of 100% because of technology that we want to implement instead of having human beings in the hospital. That's very important. There's nothing else that changes anything except for the possibility of death. That's what we're looking at. And that's how you have to think about this. We don't get second chances in life sometimes. And this is the one thing you do not want to take a chance with by taking a monitor out of a person's ability to monitor them in the hospital and do it somewhere far away. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Maria Dalton, followed by Julia Arceo.
Hi, City Council. I am not the best speaker, but I wanted to tell you that this is so important to me to be listened to. And I've worked for St. John's for half my life, and I am a monitor tech. I'm only one of 4 that is left as a monitor tech. Everything else has been outsourced to Arizona. There's a lot to be said. I am the one that saw that the monitor had gone down to 30. So I feel that it scared me so much, and I was so grateful that the nurses were right there to run in there. And I called the RRT like I was told to, and it made a big difference. So the patient survived, and I don't want to say much more about that, but I feel so grateful to have a team there and to have the nurses and the union and the city council hopefully behind us. So I hope this can be passed today, as it is very scary for all of us. And I think it should be passed. So thank you.
Thank you. Julia Arceo.
Hi, good evening. I'm sorry I had a long day. I was bargaining for a contract, but my name is Julieta Arceo. I'm a registered nurse. I work at St. John's. In my background, I've been working for St. John's for 37 years now. In 1989, they brought in, there was a group of us that were trained to be monitor techs for safety. Because before then, it was the nurses that used to take turns or the charge nurse that would watch the monitors. So here we are, 2024, they take our safety away. The AI part of it does not work. I was the nurse that was in charge of the patient that the heart rate dropped to the 20s. Luckily, Maria Dalton, she's a monitor tech that was displaced to a different unit. She happened to be working extra as a unit clerk. So for them to say that the AI picked it up, they didn't. We called them, and their answer was like, well, AI should have picked it up. Nobody called, nobody knew. If I would have given that patient the medication and not taken a patch off the patient, I would have sent her home. I would have not known that at any point the heart rate had dropped. So this is really important. I was a monitor tech for 18 years. Now I've been a nurse for 16. So I'm very proud of what we have. And I love patient care. This is why I'm still at St. John's. I love where I work. And I love the team that we have always had. So for them to come and outsource a very vital part of our unit, which is the monitor tech, that's what keeps the patient safe. They're the first one that catch everything. Now patients are going home with the wrong medications because they don't have the parameters for them to let us know that the heart rate is being sustaining at 110. So this is medical, but this is really important for us to keep. We want our monitor techs back. We've been fighting this. We will continue to do our job to try to get our monitor techs back. We really would appreciate for you to reconsider and really sign the resolution, because we had a log that we kept because they wanted to know every single mistake or things that were not being caught. We gave it to them, and all they had is excuses. And all they do is fire the monitor techs in Arizona when they don't catch things. And it's very different to have somebody grab me and say, hey, can you go check on the patient, than a system that will send you an alarm, maybe, if it catches it. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk, any additional speakers virtually or in person?
Mayor Zaragoza, there's no more speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Okay, Councilman Valenzuela.
Thank you, Mayor Zaragoza. So back in May, I think May 1st was the May Day rally that UHW and 121RN hosted. That's where I got to learn about these issues firsthand. And like many of us saw here, when they came to the council chambers in May, they shared their concerns about these outsourcing. I remember when I spoke to one of the workers at the protest or the informational picket, they stated that this outsourcing would also change the ratio of workers to patients. I believe what they told me was at St. John's, it would be 1 heart monitor tech to up to 6 patients, but when they outsource, it could potentially be 1 heart monitor tech up to 40 patients with that outsource. I know I brought this resolution forward to deal with patient care. And I know if I found any of my peers here or their loved ones at St. John's Hospital, I would want them to have the best in-house care available for our Oxnard residents. I know I've heard a few counterpoints from folks that the government or local government shouldn't be putting input into a private medical facility, but there are 2 counterpoints to that. One, these private medical facilities receive millions of public taxpayer dollars. I think we should have a say in what they do. And then the other part is that I think it's a much larger conversation to have, but the idea that healthcare shouldn't be a private business. It should be about taking care of our residents and the quality of life of Oxnard. So I ask my peers to support this resolution. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Sharon.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank all of the speakers who took the time to be here this evening and speak on this item. And I'll echo some of the things that Councilmember Valenzuela has mentioned. And for those who, first off and foremost, who feel that local government or the city council shouldn't have any say in what private businesses do, we can certainly have discussion on that to go deeper into it. But this isn't just any private business. This is healthcare. This is providing health and wellness to residents of Oxnard and in this region through St. John's Medical Center, which is run by Dignity. And the city of Oxnard has certainly had a reputation for the last couple decades that I personally feel has at times been earned by previous decisions that were made by the city at that time. But I look at government a lot like a relationship where it's very easy to lose trust, very difficult to get it back. But with a relationship, you could always break up and just walk away from that person. With your local government, if you want to still live there, you can't just break up with your government. They're there. We owe it to residents to work harder 3 or 4 times over to make up for mistakes from the past. Likewise, for St. John's, there are a number of things that are said about that facility that I don't think are always well earned, but there are some things that are decisions that are made that do affect patient care and do affect patients at the end of the day. And you have workers who have to work within those resources and parameters that they're given. That being said, I would hope that Dignity Health would see that and do self-reflection and say we need to do things that help improve patient care and our perception and reputation in our community that we serve. And things such as these types of decisions, is that going along to make things easier and better for them as an organization, or is it making things more difficult for themselves and their workers as an organization? So something that Councilmember Valenzuela brought up which is a conversation I will always bring up, is just this idea of the monetization of healthcare as a concept. Any business, the core principles are you maximize profit, you minimize costs. But in running a hospital as a business, your profit comes in maximizing charges for services that insurance or patients are willing to pay for those services. Minimizing costs means finding efficiencies in your materials and efficiencies in your labor. When it comes to efficiencies in your labor, we're talking about healthcare providers and healthcare professionals here. So efficiencies of labor means that you limit your scheduling or you limit the in-person staffing. And that's what we're looking at right here. And the thing is, though, that this isn't me opening a franchise for McDonald's. This isn't me opening a deli. This is a business that provides health care to patients who need it, as was mentioned by Ms. Strickland, at sometimes the parts of our lives where we're celebrating and times of our lives when we're grieving, and times of our lives that are scary that we didn't know were going to happen. And to monetize that is just it's a contradiction in what healthcare is, but that's my personal opinion. But when it comes to healthcare, it doesn't matter what your political party it is, it doesn't matter if you're pro-business, pro-patient. If you're in need of care and you end up at that facility, those individuals who are there front-facing are going to provide you care. It doesn't matter where you fall on that spectrum of your beliefs, your ideologies, your background, they're going to provide care for you. And the people who work in these settings, they will work within the resources and the parameters they're given. Whether it's new machines, old machines, adequate staffing, understaffing, they're going to make it work because that's what they've always done. It's what they'll always be able to do. It's my hope that as a business, they'll give you what you need to do your jobs and do it well, but also support you in doing your jobs and doing it well. But if people are the ones who work within the resources and the parameters to provide quality healthcare, no matter what resources they're given, if people are providing that, it seems that Dignity has removed physical people from the equation in this particular instance, where they're not just given old machines or outdated equipment or limitations in what they can do on the floor in person. The in-person thing's been completely removed. And that's where I see some uncomfortableness here and some things that, again, are in contrast to what I personally believe healthcare should be in providing that to patients. So many people out there, as an example, in the community, out in our nation, are still uncomfortable with the idea of autonomous vehicles, where you get in the backseat of a car and the car just drives you to where you need to go. And people are uncomfortable with that. Well, let's apply something similar. Would you be more comfortable if you got into an Uber or a Lyft and it wasn't necessarily autonomous, it was being driven by somebody who was in Arizona and monitoring it virtually and doing all the left and right turns and braking and accelerating? Would you be comfortable with that? Now, would you be comfortable if that driver in Arizona was also overseeing 20 or 30 other vehicles that were other passengers in there? And when we look at healthcare, why would we, regardless of what the emerging technology is showing, why would we put patients' hands or patients' healthcare in that hands as well, virtual folks? We can look at all the data, but if our actual healthcare providers, our professionals are saying nothing beats boots on the ground, eyes on the monitor, and patients are saying the same thing, it seems like a difficult or not so difficult business decision if I were running things, which I'm not. But that being said, we certainly can't tell private business what to do and what not to do. That's their decision at the end of the day, but I hope they will hear if this council makes statements that are saying that we as elected representatives are making this statement, and we hope you will hear us and take it into consideration in how you are deciding to proceed as a business. So thank you again to all who spoke, and thank you to the virtual speakers as well. And thank you to Councilmember Valenzuela for requesting this. Those are my comments, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, council members. Okay, so I just, I want to show you the technology is going to happen. You know, it's going to happen like anything else. You know, I know when they talked about computers and talk about the internet, people are saying it's not going to happen. However, this is affecting our people here in Oxnard, here in Ventura County, and my biggest concern is that we take care of our people here, take care of our residents. In fact, I have family members that suffer from respiratory diseases and so forth. So I have my family member, if they're going to St. John's, I want to make sure that they'll be able to breathe. One of the most horrifying things is not be able to breathe, you know, and to me, one of the most important things is that we have the technology and the people here in Oxnard that potentially can help us. And of course, you know, I'm sure that management from Dignity and Labor have potentially, hopefully resolve this issue. And again, I think it's important. Mary Temple said it very well with her dad, you know, being able to breathe. I cannot imagine, you know, not be able to breathe, not be able to have the technology, because maybe the technology from Phoenix, Arizona, because of a major storm, whatever, couldn't get through for whatever reason. And to me, being 300, 400, 500 miles away is really, I feel very uncomfortable with that anyway. So that my whole idea is that, again, I don't want to get involved, you know, and potential we are now with management and also labor at Dignity Health. But my biggest concern is that we have the facilities here for our people, and especially in my case, and I do have a couple of family members that I've taken them to St. John's where they can't breathe, and to me that's horrifying, you know. So thank you. Council members, Council Perello.
Number one, clear the decks on this. I had a wife that worked for Carrillo Cardiology almost 30 years. I know a lot of stories about St. John's that I'm not going to repeat, and they're not good. I look at this as a matter of labor and management. I spent 28 days in a cardio care unit with somebody who was in a coma. I understand what you're talking about, the seriousness of life. But labor and management, and I will offend some other council members that are up here right now. If there were not an SEI union backing this, would they be making this pitch? I don't think so. If it were not an election, would they be doing this? I don't think so. I took the heat for various things in this city, Sanctuary City, Roe versus Wade, other things. And the council members that pushed it, now a supervisor, she pushed it, but she never brought it up at the Board of Supervisors. I get a very ugly feeling in my stomach that something similar to this. I don't want anyone to lose a job. But when I go into a grocery store and I see scanners used, when I go to Home Depot and I don't see any clerks, the way of the world is going that way. Transcribers for court things are going out of state. Transcribers for medical are going out of state, out of nation. There's a lot of things that are happening. The mistakes that doctors or patients make, and as I mentioned, worked for Carrillo Cardiology, affiliated with St. John's. The nurses are the ones that get thrown under the bus, not the doctors. When there's an organization that's supposed to check the quality and the monitoring of hospitals, called the California Department of Health Services, I haven't heard anybody say that there's been complaints filed. The gentleman that said he'd served in the Marines and he'd served as the nurse, I respect your service. And this is not about me grandstanding about commenting on your service, but this is a real serious issue to me, because when we had Amazon built and the Teamsters were upset, we didn't have anybody have the city council make a position. When you have the retail clerks going out, we don't have anybody making a position. When we had the longshoremen threatening to go on strike here and going on strike on the East Coast because of automation, we didn't have anybody asked to put this on a council position. Because what do you think the city of Oxnard's weight will have with St. John's? We can't even get it, as Mayor Pro Tem has mentioned in the past, a serious accident, a mother and her daughter at the intersection of Rose and Woolley Road. They had to go to far-flung hospitals because St. John's can't handle that. I've got a problem with St. John's, and I've expressed it before. I certainly hope that this gets resolved, but I do not think this is something for the city council to be involved in. I appreciate you sharing this with us, but I cannot support this, and I need to be upfront and tell you why. I hope you understand.
Thank you. Any other council members? So what's
I move to support the resolution.
Second.
okay, so we got a first by Councilman Valenzuela, second by Councilman Turan. Roll call.
Councilmember Basua. Aye. Councilmember Madrigal.
Aye.
Councilmember Perello.
No.
Councilmember Turan.
Yes.
Councilmember Valenzuela.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem McDonald.
Aye.
Mayor Zaragoza.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-1.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, thank you for all the speakers who are here today. No clapping, please. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, our next item is, this is the information consent items, and we have 1 to 8 items. And do we have any speakers on this items before we can? Madam Clerk.
Mayor Zaragoza, there's no speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Okay, council members 1 to 8. Any council members have any concerns?
Excuse me, Mayor Zaragoza. We have one item under consent for the Housing Authority. Item L3 will need to be voted on
Okay,
separately.
What number is that? I'm sorry.
L3,
What?
Housing Authority consent item.
L3?
L3 will need to be voted on separately.
So we can probably, if we don't have any concerns, we can take that item.
1 and 3.
Okay, let's go 1 and 3 first, and then we'll vote.
Mayor,
I
will be abstaining from the Housing Authority vote.
Okay, from 3.
So, yeah, it's related to Councilwoman Basua's work, where she uses this same vendor, and
But she
does
doesn't
not-
have to leave, she still can vote on it.
correct, since this is on consent, she does not need to get up and leave the room.
Okay, that's number 3. Okay, good. Okay, let's go ahead, Bert, 1 and then 3.
Number 1, I'd just like to make a comment. I want to thank the city clerk and I want to thank the city attorney, because I think that with the inclusion of the entire title when we approve the minutes now, it'll make it clear for the public going back and looking at this. Those are my only comments, Mayor.
Okay. and-
Thank you,
and
Councilmember
three, you're okay
Perillo.
with three?
You're welcome. And number three, I have a question with respect to, under the discussion, there is a line and it says Spectrum offers a one-time, quote, door fee, end quote, of $50 per unit credit back to the Housing Authority of the City of Oxnard for a potential savings of $26,100. There's no indication here in the staff report what a door fee is, and that's my question. I should have probably asked you in advance, but I didn't get the opportunity. Not through your fault.
Thank you, Councilman Ramirez, Housing Director. I sincerely apologize in that it's just a rebate that they offer us, then they call it a door fee. We didn't do anything special. There isn't anything that is different from the service that the public housing residents would receive as opposed to you or I. It's an incentive that they offer to large contracts.
You've answered my question on that point. One other question. If a housing unit has Spectrum, does the city provide any appliances that would be needed to take advantage of Spectrum?
No, the television said no.
Okay, thank you very much. Those are my questions, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so then we're going to go back to number three. We'll vote on number three separately, and Councilman Basua will not vote on this item. So this is Housing Authority item. So let's motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Roll call, second.
Second.
Okay, second, Tehran. Roll call on item number three for the Housing Authority.
Commissioner Madrigal,
Aye.
Commissioner Perillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Tehran,
Yes.
Commissioner Valenzuela,
Aye.
Commissioner McDonald,
Aye.
Commissioner Zaragoza,
Aye.
Commissioner Andrade. Motion carries. We have 7 yeses, 1 abstention.
Okay, thank you. Then we have the remaining items, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
I would move the balance of info consent.
Item 2 is removed.
Did we remove item 2? No, I don't think so. No, 3 was the one that Basua. So we need a motion for 1, 2,
I'd move the balance of info.
the balance, okay. Second by Basua. Roll call. Mayor Pro Tem first and Basua second.
Councilmember Basua. Aye. Councilmember Madrigal.
Aye.
Councilmember Perillo.
Yes.
Councilmember Tehran.
Yes.
Councilmember Valenzuela.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem McDonald.
Aye.
Mayor Zaragoza.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. And our last item is a report from Public Works, a budget appropriation for design and construction of activities for the Mandalay seawalls. Recommendation, the City Council approve and authorize a new project budget appropriation in the amount of $1,500,000 from available fund balances in the General Fund 101 and corresponding capital outlay Fund 101 and 301 into the Mandalay Seawall Capital Improvement Project C1901. The Public Works Transportation Committee approved this item 3-0, September 24, 2024, and there was a measure and pre-recorded item, and we have our
I received an email along with, I believe, the rest of the council member on this matter, so I want to disclose it.
ex parte, any ex parte in this?
No ex parte.
I was going to email you that you know.
Okay, in the email, okay. No ex parte, none? Okay. Any questions of our Public Works Director? If not,
Any speakers?
Any speakers on this item?
Yes, Mayor Zaragoza, we have one speaker
Okay.
from Debbie Mitchell.
Oh, Debbie in person. I was looking for the virtual.
Surprise!
Welcome.
And I thought I was going to be late because I didn't leave work until 6 o'clock. Anyway, but thank you so much for hearing this, and I know you know my spiel, but after listening to the entire meeting tonight and hearing the various areas and Mr. Jeff Pengley, which I had never met him in person, but working with Public Works in the last probably, how long have you been here? 3 years. 3 years? Wow, has been so different than prior to that. And it's like, I fought fairly vehemently. I found emails with Mr. Nguyen from when he first came where I argued with him pretty much tooth and nail. There was some fist pounding and some very inappropriate cartoons that I put up in meetings with him because of decisions that had been made in the past. Working with Mr. Nguyen, watching Public Works and this amazing dream team over here come in and pull together the most professional engineering organization I have ever seen. And I've worked with, not in Public Works, but high-tech digital cinema organizations where you have to have IT people, engineers, hardware, software developers, everybody coming together and pulling together documentation so things work globally on a system. And watching this change from one hierarchical person in Public Works that was difficult to communicate with, and a team that was trying to do their best to cover not only their ass, but the ass of the person above them, and watch it turn into a professional organization that feels like a real engineering firm, has been the most amazing thing. And I'm so grateful, seriously, because as I thought I was going to be in the position of Pat Brown, where I would die before those seawalls would ever get fixed. And I'm serious. We've lost Virgil. We lost Bob Friedland. We've had people age out without anything getting done. And not just age out and be buried. So seeing things come together where we're this close, we're maybe 2 years from having all the foundational documents to be able to have a CFD for our area that would cover the ongoing, begin to cover the ongoing seawall repairs. And to see something recognized in advance by Public Works without the homeowners screaming about it first, this matters. And thank you. I hope you approve it. If you don't, I'll be yelling and screaming. But thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. And like I've said before, Debbie, I've said we have probably one of the best city councils that we've ever worked with. We're not a rubber stamp, as you can see. Number one, and the best administration that I've worked with in many, many years. And thank you to our Public Works people and our city manager for the good work they do.
Thanks to all of you.
Any questions? So Michael, go ahead. Councilor Turan.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Mr. Wolf. I was just going to ask if you wouldn't mind just summarizing a little bit about what the item here is. For this particular measure, Measure M, public's prohibited from seeing a live reenactment tonight. So if you wouldn't mind just summarizing it for the record so folks have some idea of what we're talking about tonight.
Sure. Good evening. Michael Wolf, Director of Public Works. The item is a request for additional funding for our seawalls projects or project. As you know, we are working on what we call a pilot program for our Hemlock, stretch of Hemlock, where we're looking at different methodologies for repair of the seawalls. Recently, we were brought on board a structural engineering firm that started to do the surveying of the seawalls again. It had been lapsed for a couple of years. And so with that ongoing survey, they identified a few places, foundational places that need some more immediate attention than others. And so we are asking for additional funds to move that portion of that seawall repair project forward. So I wanted to make sure this is separate and apart from the discussion about the West Hemlock wall. And this is about the survey and foundational repair work that we are proposing to do. I want to say it's about 3,000 linear foot of our seawalls where they've identified places that need, that have been exposed in terms of the seawall floor is exposed away from the footing and the pile caps and can potentially have critters, if you will, ocean critters going into the piles, the wooden piles that are underneath the seawall cap, concrete cap. So the idea here is additional funding for design work and additional funding for construction to make those repairs, to allow those seawalls to continue their lifespan.
Thank you. And I'll just thank Ms. Mitchell for her comments tonight. And I will echo that. I hope, Mr. Wolf, that you understand the vital work that you not only bring to the community with you and your team, but also the shift in the culture of that work within Public Works as a city. And I hope you take those compliments from her as a community member and from me as a council member really seriously, because this has not always been the case in the city of Oxnard, as she mentioned in her comments. And I think what stands out to me and what she had mentioned is this concept of doing things with people, not doing things to people. And this is an example of what happens when you do things in partnership with community members and include them in the process versus doing things to them. And I think we have ballot measures this year that are examples of when you do things to people or think you're doing it for them, you can divide people when they're not included in that process. So we could have easily had, as she mentioned, people divided in that community about this, but because they were included in this each step of the way, that I think echoes her comments that she brought forward. And my last thing I'll say is I appreciate the work you do too, because you always bring a great engineering mindset and you're always willing to answer questions like, can you explain microsurfacing to us? And so much appreciated. And I'm fully convinced that Ms. Brown, Ms. Mitchell, and our mayor will probably outlive all of us. And so thank you again for this work. So I'll turn it back to the mayor.
Michael?
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to mention the folks that are really working on this project. They're sitting behind me. So Morgan Kessler and KJ May, those are the folks that are actually moving this project forward. So I appreciate Debbie's compliments. It really goes to those two gentlemen that are really moving this forward. So.
Thank you. Well, wait a minute. I'm the mayor. Remember, I can change that. Oh, no. Right, Debbie? See? No, thank you. Bert?
I would like to thank Miss Debbie Mitchell. A lot of people have people in various neighborhoods that are known as the tigers of the neighborhood, the ones that kick butt and get things done. There are a lot of people to share the credit. But when something goes wrong, individuals have to stand alone. Miss Mitchell has been there every time, a group of people that are involved. But Miss Mitchell takes the time to call in and attend meetings. Miss Mitchell, Debbie, thank you very much for speaking up. And Michael, I hope you take what she said and share it with everybody in your staff, not just the two gentlemen in the back. And I want to thank you as a credit to you to share the wealth with the two individuals in back and identifying them. It's a big deal. The council, in support of this, depending on the vote, I hope that the entire council supports this. This is something that impacts the entire city of Oxnard financially, recreationally, and ideally. The identity of Oxnard is tied in with the Channel Islands Harbor and this area. And this is an issue that's been long overdue. Thank you very much for all your work. And again, thank you, Ms. Mitchell, for coming and taking the time to be here.
Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion to support this item. I make a motion to support this item.
Second.
Okay, motion by Perella, second by Valenzuela. Roll call.
Councilmember Councilmember Basua. Aye. Councilmember Madrigal.
Aye.
Councilmember Perello.
Yes.
Councilmember Duran.
Yes.
Councilmember Valenzuela.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem McDonald.
Aye.
Mayor Zaragoza.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. That's our last item. We are adjourned. Thank you.